to change or a complaint with is,
Improve.
or improve is the AES playground. By adding a backboard to the basketball hoop and how do I say this? So yeah, adding a hoop to the adding a backboard to the basketball hoop and maybe another one too, another hoop also, and maybe putting maybe making like an area for like so maybe an area for like maybe like a line for like all like the swings and the slide, so people aren't shoving people at the top of the slides, and so they're not pushing people with on the swings. And so, and also that what I've seen is that people are not using the material correctly. So I'd like to complain that, or improve that there should be like a rule, like a sign that has rules for swings and all the slides and all that.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's good information.
Yeah, we need to know these things. Adam Good, are you here yet? And we can always come back if he's running late. Yeah, we can come back to Adam if we'll check periodically, see if he's there. No other public comment at this point? Okay, great. Let's go on to reports and comments. AES Ascent student presentation. This should be good. Great. I'm looking forward to this.
Hi, everybody. Do you want me just to go ahead or?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Zatz. I teach Ascent here at Aspen Elementary. And I put together a little slideshow to just give you some little snapshot of what we're doing with Ascent here. And hopefully I'll be able to share my screen properly and all that. One moment, please. Okay, sorry, guys. It doesn't have it up. Here it is. Okay. Okay, I just deleted it. Okay, you guys, I'm a little nervous, so
Since we have it here, are we able to put it up?
Yeah.
just deleted it, but I'll find it again.
Sharing your screen now.
I see.
I'm not used to use, my excuse is I'm not used to using Zoom. How's that for an excuse? Okay.
Julie, you did awesome.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I got it up. Good so far.
No problem. Take a deep breath. Everything's great.
Now I just have to make sure that the controls are right, that you're gonna be, well, we'll see. Okay. Anyway, so here are my students. I just took a little, wanted you to see what they all look like at the moment. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and read this. The pandemic didn't slow my Ascent students down for a second. They've been working hard on topics ranging from poetry with an emphasis on diversity, creativity, inventions, passion projects using the design thinking process. And then I sprinkle in brain busting math problems throughout the year. And I'm going to share a few snapshots here. This is an example of just a choice board that I might put on their Google Classroom. So not only do they work with me in the classroom, in my own classroom, but they also, when they have time at home that they want something to do or in their own classrooms, I just put a variety of different challenging math assignments and games, and there's Scratch, you can see on here, coding and so on their Google Classroom. And so this is just an example of that. And I thought it would be fun to share with you our passion projects that we've been working on. We're in the process of working on them. Some of the students are almost finished, and so I'm going to share some of those with you. A passion project is just that. It's something that the children want to learn more about, that they are really interested in and excited about. And so here are some of the ideas that they've been working on. Alternative energy sources is a really big one with many of the students. One of my students, and you'll see this, Alex wanted to learn alternative methods for getting animals to find water. And so she created a water guzzler. Campaigns to save endangered animals. One of my students was especially interested in beluga whales. Alternative types of window panes so birds don't fly into them. We'll show you that one. Green ways to make skis. I have a boy who's actually creating skis. And he wants it to be environmentally friendly way. And then the positive and negative aspects of chocolate. So the introduction to our podcast is right here. And let me know if you can't, I know it's pretty cute. Let me know if you can't hear this because I think I might have to share it differently, okay? Okay.
Are you talking, Julie?
Hey, yeah, Julie, we can't hear anything, unfortunately.
That's, okay, so that's, oh, I'm sorry. She's been doing her whole podcast. Okay,
Ah,
I'm sorry. I think I have to share this differently, so I might need to stop sharing and reshare. Sorry, you guys. Yeah, that was Sloan. This is a podcast that she created about chocolate. Do you want to hear that? Do you have time or do you want me to move on?
Can you just tell us if there is a negative, a downside to chocolate that we should all know?
So she actually is in the process of also comparing and contrasting milk chocolate to dark chocolate, and yes, the sugar contents and also the additives that they add to chocolate, unfortunately, are not amazing for you. And so that's what Sloan is finding out. Yeah. Okay.
Julie, can we hear that? Do you think, or is it?
Yeah, let's see if you can hear it now. Okay, I'm going to
Okay.
try to go back here. Oops. Okay. Oh, shoot. You'll be able to hear.
Other times we'll be doing dark chocolate, milk chocolate, white chocolate.
Can you hear it now?
Yes, yeah, very well, very well.
On very rare occasions, we'll be doing Let's Mix It Up episodes, which are when we do completely different things that have nothing to do with chocolate. On those episodes, they're just to have some fun and make things interesting. I really hope you listen to my podcast, and I'm sure you'll learn loads if you do. Have fun listening to my podcast.
Okay. So I think you got the gist there. Okay.
For sure.
She just was, her introduction was just that she's going to be learning, teaching you all about chocolate. Okay, and now I've got a few videos of the children's, the beginning of their passion projects. And here you go. Again, if you can't hear this, please let me know.
Good.
Hi, Alex. So tell us why you chose water guzzlers for your passion project.
I chose water guzzlers because I started to realize that all kinds of animals, and especially elk, had to come down the mountains where they live just to get a sip of water and stuff like that. And then also, I read in a magazine that these things are starting up, water guzzlers, and with the water guzzlers are helping all animal life. But the thing is that some people don't know how to build them, and some people don't even know what they are.
Okay, and so she went on to talk about the water guzzlers. And then Jack has created this actual model of a home that he wants to build. His interest is in architecture and solar powered energy. So here is Jack.
Hey, Jack, can you tell me about the house that you designed here?
So this house was inspired by a house that is, when I go home on the bus, I see it. It's off the Maroon Creek Bridge hanging over that river.
Oh, yeah.
And it has 3 different sections. There's this section, and then there's a small little hallway to this other section with the chimney here and an outside courtyard with a pool.
Whoa.
And a barnwood shade. And I had to make the hill slant down so I could add another story under. There's the garage there, and this is another section, and then there's this glass hallway crossing these 2 parts, and it goes over like slanting downhill. And the roof of all these are gravel, but the gravel under the gravel is and above the gravel, which I'm gonna add, haven't added yet, but I am going to add in the gravel, because the roof is all gravel, but I am going to add solar panels under the gravel, and that's what makes it solar powered. But yeah, that's the house.
That is fantastic. And you're making it on the SketchUp program.
Yes.
That was just available to us.
SketchUp is a very good program, because my dad showed me it because he uses it a lot.
Oh, gotcha. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Jack. And then next.
Hi, Alex. So tell us why.
These guys are really good at technology.
Hey, Jack, can you tell me about the house?
Next slide. Okay. And this is Charlotte and Liam, and they are learning all about the ins and outs of space. Liam's going to talk to you a little bit about black holes here.
Hey, Liam, can you tell us about what happens when you reach the point of singularity in a black hole?
When you reach the point of singularity, you will enter an infinitely small space that will eventually, if you survive long enough, probably won't, you will enter a white hole, which gets bigger and bigger until you get spat out of the white hole side. Most likely, a white hole would spit you out into another dimension.
Whoa, that is fascinating. Thank you so much.
Okay, and here is Charlotte.
Hey, Charlotte, want to tell us about the electromagnetic spectrum?
Sure. Well, the highest end, the gamma ray, is only detectable in heat detectors. And the radio wave is, well, very, very, very much harder to detect than the gamma. Everything in between is X-ray, ultraviolet, infrared, and microwave. That little section between ultraviolet and infrared is the visible section.
Fascinating.
These are the wavelengths of each of them. These very short waves, the ones that not much in between, they're high frequency, so they're very close together. Those are the gamma rays. then they get farther and farther apart until we have the radial waves over here, which are really far apart. We can see it from maybe here to there.
That is so interesting, Charlotte. I didn't know any of that. Thank you so much. You're teaching us so much.
Okay, and as you would imagine, I'm asking the
Hey, Liam, can you tell us
Hey,
about
Charlotte.
what happens when you
Why don't
reach
you tell us about
the
the okay, no more videos, so I don't have to do that anymore. Okay, and so Adam wanted to find a way to help birds not fly into windows and get hurt. And so he's been doing his research on that. And so he actually created this plexiglass window that he's going to experiment with at his home. And then Nora and Bee are actually creating a robot. Nora's dad is very involved with her creating this robot. And so she's showing us a diagram of all the different parts of the robot that she and Bee are creating. And then finally, this is just an example of what I'll put on the Google Classroom for the kids, all different ways for them to share their presentations. And so we do have one boy that's creating a website. As you know, you saw the podcast and then storyboards. And so it's incredible the amount of information that's out there. Okay, and that is all that I have. And sorry, technical difficulties, you guys.
No problem. It was great. Thank you so much. And
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, you guys.
And thanks, Liam, Charlotte, Jack, Alex, Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Well done, Julie.
Yeah,
Well
awesome.
done. I mean, it's super great, all that progress.
Oh, thank you.
Julie, how many kids do you see? How many kids are?
Well, I have in my identified kids in 4th grade, I have 17, and in 3rd grade right now I have 6. So quite a big difference in my 4th and 3rd grade. But the numbers in 2nd grade, or excuse me, the numbers in 3rd are a little smaller than the numbers in 4th. So that's one of the reasons too.
And do you help some of the classroom teachers with just some ideas for them, like the choice board or, you know?
Yes, exactly. So I send out challenge work to the teacher. I'm sending it out now because we're online, but you know, in a regular school year, I work with 1st and 2nd graders. I push into their classrooms, which means I go into their classrooms, and it helps me learn the class makeup of the kids. And sometimes I pull some of those kids out that the teachers want to have an extra challenge. And then I also am regularly sending challenge work home, or not work home, but work to the teachers. And then, like you said, I send the choice boards to the teachers so they can push them out to their students as well.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was fascinating and charming to see all of that.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you, you guys. I was really nervous, as you can tell.
You did great. You did a great job. You did as well as they did. Okay. So let's move to bond update. Dave, do we have Damien coming in?
Yes, we have Damien Squire on the line, who Liza will drive a brief presentation. But Damien, are you there?
I certainly am. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Wonderful. Before Eliza gets into the update, I'd like to give an update from the core project team. My name is Damien Spar. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the project executive for SiteLogic, reporting on behalf of our team, including my partner in owner representation, Bob Daniel of Gateway Management, as well as other members of the core team, including Aspen School District Administration and the design collaboration of Cunningham and Gilbert Sanchez. As a point of review, the groups of projects being considered include deferred maintenance, net zero initiatives, safety and security, bus barn and site, new cottage, district offices, classroom and learning environments, district theater and performing arts, athletics and recreation, and housing acquisition and improvements. Some of these things we heard about earlier tonight already. Programming meetings for all of these project components are currently underway. I mentioned the core project team. This group is driving project processes. It includes key administrators of Dr. Ball, Linda Warho, Adric Arendt, Jorge Calderon, Eliza Robinson, as well as Cunningham, led by Carrie Ellen Mock and Gilbert Sanchez. The meeting is chaired by the owner representatives, and we meet weekly. Approval and guidance for the core project team's actions comes from the Financial Accountability Board. The guidelines and requirements for the work of the core project team are developed by the Financial Accountability Board and communicated to us through Linda Warho. The core project team members will also be reporting to the facilities group and the housing subgroup, as well as the Board of Education. Currently, the following actions are occurring within the core project team, including meeting with the design input groups during the programming process for all areas of work. One, we are having discussions with pre-qualified design subconsultants like mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, civil engineers, roofing experts, theater consultants, et cetera, to be brought onto the team under Cunningham or in separate contracts directly with the district. Two, we are finalizing a proposal from a firm to provide housing analysis to provide facility conditions assessment report of the current housing stock. This will inform us of the capital improvements or repairs needed on the existing housing inventory. Three, we have, did a refinement of the list of deferred maintenance projects for immediate pricing by a general contractor or construction manager at risk, a firm that will actually construct the improvements. In fact, we're anticipating that RFP, which is being developed, will be issued later this week to allow us to complete work this summer as well as into the fall. Finally, we continued work on evaluating opportunities for housing acquisitions and the appropriate actions surrounding that process. The core team will be providing a plan to demonstrate work and commitments that will be accomplished over the 2021 summer. This plan will be reviewed by the Financial Accountability Board and presented to this board in the mid-June meeting. And we will continue to report to the Board of Education at each meeting as we're invited by Dr. Ball. So with all that being said, I appreciate your time to hear the update from the core project team on our bond fund projects. And now we will get to the fun slides and be able to work through those quickly. The things that you're seeing on the slide in front of you are the things that I have mentioned, and they're just simply a recap. The next slide gets into some more detail about that. Dr. Ball, would you like to speak about that? I think that you've been working on this significantly as a part of the core project team.
Sure. This is simply a list of our current housing inventory. I'm not going to read it to you all, but you can see that we have quite a few units sort of spread kind of hither and yon. And this is part of the work is to kind of, as we're moving forward, we're going to have to do some refreshing. And in fact, we've asked some folks to vacate their units for this, this summer at the end of their lease so that we can get them upgraded and address some persistent issues that have been in a number of the units. But I won't redo this, but this is our current stock. Moving forward, we're also looking at the next slide, please. Yeah, once the bond passed, we began quietly trying to look for some opportunities. These are some of the opportunities that are in the pipeline, or actually we've actually purchased or leased a couple of units. 210 property on East Main. We're looking at, well, we own two of those now, and we're renting two, at a very competitive price to kind of ease the pressure on our existing stock. We have a letter of intent on 7 units in Aspen for some total of 18 bedrooms. We expect those units to be available to us in August. We're still going through the purchasing process. We're not identifying the address at this time. The housing subcommittee is convening Friday, and then our facilities committee is convening next Wednesday, so that we can brief those committees as well as seek their advice and guidance on some of the efforts currently underway. So that's kind of where we are at this point in time for new and future housing. We did purchase some lots down valley, but that's going to be a longer multi-year project. They haven't even put in notes for those properties. So, but we are excited about what those properties represent for the future of the district. Didn't even mention them because we don't have a time frame yet for those. We are continuing the design input groups that Damian Squire was referencing, continuing to seek input and get some guidance. I think we might have to reach out to the 4th grade on some of the net zero work based on tonight's meeting, as well as our initial speaker on the elementary school playground. So we're going to have to add a couple of people to our design input groups, Mr. Spar, but Eliza will help us connect with those students so that we can capture some student voice, some more student voice. There is a net zero meeting with students this Friday as well that Mr. Mulberry is kind of helping facilitate. So a lot of exciting work. We're starting to get quite a bit of input from quite a few stakeholders. So it's been a very powerful process so far. That, I think, is the bond update.
Great.
Any questions for Mr. Spar or some folks sitting here?
Damian, when you said, I think you said financial accountability committee, were you talking about the financial advisory board perhaps? Okay.
I think that I misused the A. Yes, the financial advisory board. I have to check my weekly minutes. I may have been reporting that wrong for 5 weeks here. I will make it very much.
Yeah, sorry about that. We should have corrected you the first time around.
I learn.
So have we already done a survey or audit of the condition, or that's of our current holdings, or that's what you're doing now? You're in the process of.
That's correct.
Okay, great. No more questions for me? Yeah. Good, great. Well, thank you, Damian.
Thank you. It's nice to see everyone.
Likewise. We should check if Adam Good is available for his public comment or not. And we can check after every couple of items, but.
It looks like we got Jonathan Nichol joining us.
Oh, Jonathan, hi.
Hello, Jonathan.
Got that, Eliza? He joined at, let's see, 4:30?
All good on the home front?
Oh, good. Okay. So transportation update.
Yes, Reagan Mahaffey is with us and she is ready to go.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. I'll share my screen with you. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in with them. All right, I'm sharing the wrong screen.
That's Mike.
That looks good.
Reagan, it looks
You
like
guys see it?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Got two screens going, so I was looking at the wrong one. So I wanted to show you kind of like a breakdown of our department and everything that we do this year. Obviously, of course, we've got our CDL and small vehicle route drivers who transport our kids here every day. And I would like to give a huge shout out to these individuals because they have really made this year happen for our routes. They've been there from day one delivering lunches since last March, and they did that weekly all through the summer through the school year. In fact, we didn't stop delivering lunches until the fourth quarter. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Tennille Folks' crew for always making those lunches, and of course, Family Connections for all the work they did on that as well. But these individuals really, they stepped up from day one, and we're out there driving routes every day. We're shifting constantly with all of the different schedule changes as well, making sure our kids are getting here safely every day. And I cannot talk enough about what they did this school year because it was amazing. And I'd also love to give a shout out to our substitute small vehicle drivers who really stepped up this year and really enabled my department to not have to cancel routes as frequently as I really expected us to do with all the quarantining that was happening. So Tennille Folk, Nick Sturts, Dave Warho, Jeremy Hack really helped us a lot this year. Make sure that we kind of creatively made sure routes worked. We were able to run a lot of our routes by running 2 mini buses instead of 1 full-size bus. So it was really great to have their help and support, and this crew was amazing, and they just deserve all the kudos for everything they did this year. I just wanted to give you guys a quick breakdown as well of what this actually means, because not only do we have just full-time drivers who have additional duties, whether it's driving trips, doing parking enforcement or shipping and receiving or vehicle cleaning and movement, we also have elementary school teachers, we have middle school teachers, we have drivers who become long-term subs here too. And I'd love to give a shout out to these individuals: Jamie Mahaffey, Jared Thompson, Annie Thompson, Brad Ewell, Clay Shiflett, Jeremy Hack, because the thought of them, they drive a school bus, they park it, they're running in to go teach, then they're running to the bus in the afternoon to go drive. Sometimes in between the 2 runs, they're running back in to catch meetings. What they're doing is just amazing and fantastic. And I just have the best crew down here, and I'm so thankful for everything that they've done this year. We, of course, had some retiring staff as well. So Jeff Houchin left us mid-year. He retired around November this year for us. He was with the district for around 6 years, so we were sad to see him go. Bud Merrick is another huge loss for our department. He's been with this district for over 15 years. He's been the OWL bus driver for the previous 6 years. And, you know, him and his family actually decided to move the area. So he's another huge loss in our department. We're sad to see him go, but we wish him happy trails in his new life out in Missouri. And then Betsy Annan Nastis, she's a familiar name if you've been around in the district for a long time. She used to be down at the elementary school. Fantastic there. And she helped us out by driving a small vehicle route for us all year. She will go back into retirement next year and just kind of stay on as a substitute driver who drives here and there for us. This is a quick overview of kind of the runs and routes that we did this year. So the difference between a route and a run is the full spectrum of it. When we break it down into runs, that's like our morning versus afternoon versus early release. So at the start of the school year, we actually had 15 elementary school runs. That's when we were in the hybrid model of the AABB week. And then when we shifted to the full in-person, we actually lost a driver at that time. So we had to reduce our routes. So we went down to 14 elementary school routes. What that meant in the creation of all the different schedules that we had and the midday arrivals and midday returns, we actually had to create around 315 runs this year to make everything work. To put that in perspective, in a normal year, we create 36.
Wow.
So there is a lot of shifting going down there this year. Our number of completed year runs so far is just under 7,000. We serviced just over 1,200 students this year on our routes, which equaled about just over 87,000 miles on the road for our routes this year. Of course, here's our break of our activity trips. We might think that we didn't do any activity trips. That's a little bit false. We still ran a lot of our high school athletics. starting in August to make sure our teams were being competitive and getting out and actually getting that exposure and being able to compete in this very strange year. So this is just kind of a breakdown of what building we are transporting. High school is typically our largest transporter for activity trips each year. As you can see, they held the majority, around 60%. We did a lot less mileage in our activities this year, as expected, because we weren't doing a lot of our outdoor eds and exits and everything like that. So in a typical year, we're more in the 90,000 at this point. So we did a lot less this year. And then I just kind of wanted to discuss some of the differences that might be happening next year for our routes as we go to a 45-minute break in between the bells. This will require us to go to more hub stops in Snowmass Village, as those are our longest routes and they really require an hour between the bells. So for them, we're going to shift to hub stops so that we can meet that 45-minute difference between the two bell schedules. I'd also
Reagan, what's a hub stop versus another kind of stop?
So a hub stop is more a satellite stop where parents will more have to drive further to get to the stop. So a lot of our routes are built kind of more door to door, where it's easier, where kids can walk, or it's right outside the door. Unfortunately, in this situation, it might be within walking distance for some families, but for others, they're most likely going to have to drive to the closest bus stop. I'd also like to clean up, yeah, no problem. I'd like to clean up our route registration process. This was our first year where we actually really had families register for routes and had student lists off of that. And I'd just like to clean up that process so that we get a little bit more accurate information of who will be riding our buses. This is a little wacky, so I wasn't sure if the kids who were registered just didn't ride because of COVID, or if there's just a little bit of that panic and people registered because they wanted to get their kid on the list, but their kid's an infrequent rider. So I'd like to clean up that process so we can streamline and make more efficient routes as well. With the two bell schedule, I am reconsidering our ability to transport to after school activities. So in the past, prior to this year, kids and families had the flexibility to kind of hop on a different route to go to maybe ballet or gymnastics. With the two bell schedule, I think we will be able to offer that again, but we will need to clean up that process so it's a lot cleaner, so we don't have a route that goes from 45 students to over capacity at 80 students in the afternoon. So I'm going to clean that up, and that communication out to parents will probably go out this summer prior to registration, so they know the procedure of how to register their students on different routes. And then I just wanted to put a quick note in there that due to the roundabout construction that's set to start in April of 2022, I'm not sure how that will affect or impact our routes as of yet, but I will keep a close eye on that. And if need to, we may need to do kind of a mid-year adjustment of our routes to make sure our kids are still making it to school on time. Typically speaking, they work with us a lot so that we don't have major impacts, but I have heard that traffic's going to be detoured over McLean Flats. So that could possibly have a significant impact on our McLean Flats route. And then safety, this is something that I really want to start tracking in our district. We've always had it in paper, but not in a digital format. So I kind of wanted to track to see, where are our most accidents happening so that we can tailor our training to really reduce those happening on the road. The good thing about our accidents are the majority of them, I'd say 99% of them, happen without students on board. I think typically speaking, we might only have one accident a school year that has students actually on board. As you can see, our major accident type here happens when we're reversing. We had an abnormal year in 2019, 2020, which was last year. We had a lot of reversing accidents last year. So I was happy to see that
Go down. Yeah.
erase itself completely this year. So that was nice to see. And then I just kind of wanted to give you our accident percentage rate per trip. So you can kind of get an idea. And here again, you see this huge spike last year, which I do like to note that while it's a huge spike for our district, this is actually a really good accident rate comparatively to other companies and districts. But I am much happier with the accident rate that we have this year. And this is the trend I would love to see continue. Then every year we kind of give you an update on our asset ages. So as you can see, kind of how it falls out. Our full-size buses, we do have some aging fleet there. I think our mini buses are obviously our oldest assets that we have on hand currently, and same with our truck type vehicle. So we are looking at some ways that we can start replacing those older assets that we have on the road. And I just kind of wanted to cover some of the grant work that happens in this department. Every year, the district goes after the TOP grant, which is the City of Aspen grant that is intended to get people out of their cars and find alternative methods. And so they offer a summer and winter grant cycle. And this year they added a telework grant. So these are all the amounts that we are awarded this school year for our various projects. So the telework we use to get new monitors and various things for teachers that were working from home. Our winter grant cycle we usually use as incentives for staff who are either utilizing the staff bus to come in, or maybe carpooling, walking, or biking. We give them $50 gift cards each month during the cycle. And then for the summer grant cycle, I'm actually really excited about this. We were awarded this funding to purchase 4 e-bikes and locks. And I get into that a little bit more, but it's my hope to kind of start a bike share program for the campus to be utilized by both staff and students. And what I notice a lot that happens here, particularly in the high school students, we see them kind of do the mass exodus to maybe Big Rap during lunch in their cars. So I'd love to see maybe a mass exodus of bikes into town instead of cars. So we're piloting it this summer with 4 bikes. I have a fleet management system, and I've locked it down so that only individuals who have the Aspen K12.net email can actually unlock and use the bikes. So I'm happy to say that we're going to start piloting that soon. The bikes are on hand, and so are the locks. So I can't wait to kind of get that started. The next one is the Alt Fuels grant, and this is another thing that I'm very passionate about. This is for replacing old diesels with electric school buses. So as you can see, we actually already went for this grant last year. We were awarded enough to cover 2 buses and 2 charging stations, but unfortunately due to COVID, we backed out. Sorry about that.
I'm scared.
She's just chewing the dog out right now. Dog said, what? What am I doing? But you're okay, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry, she doesn't like thunder.
Yeah. That's okay. She's
But this grant cycle actually just opened again, and we actually have 6 full-size buses that qualify, and we have multiple of our mini buses that qualify. So I'm hoping to apply again and get on that to kind of replace some of our older, dirtier diesels with new EV buses and kind of have the quieter, cleaner buses running our routes. So that's something else we're going after. And then the final grant I'm kind of pursuing right now is a transit security grant program that I'm hoping to help alleviate some of the funds that are going to be used in the bond for this new bus barn. So this could be used for fencing, could be used for security cameras, both on the buses or on the building. And it can also be used to kind of redo maybe the bus loop in the afternoon to kind of separate it from parent and student pickup and drop off and where our buses transport. So I'm hoping to kind of get that to offset and help us out. And then I just kind of wanted to give you guys a heads up on some of the regulations and rules that are coming down the pipeline. We do have the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse that went into effect actually last year. The entry-level driver training goes into effect of February 6th, 2022. This kind of changes the rules and requirements that go into anyone who's pursuing an upgrade in their license. So anyone who has a CDL who's trying to go to another class level now has new regulations that goes into it. So it affects us entirely with our CDL drivers. Part of that is we have to become a training provider, and we have to be registered through the federal government and the state, and you have to have certified trainers through the state to actually be able to provide training. Some of that also goes into what your training facility has to look like to meet these regulations. So that's all coming down. We're in line, you know, the state of Colorado is looking very good, and so is our department. So it's going to be a very easy transition for us. And then I just wanted to note the employee traffic reduction program that is coming down through Colorado ruling. It's being proposed. I think we are ahead of the line just through the staff bus that we offer and the different opportunities we offer. I'm not quite sure what it's going to require of us. So I will be keeping a close eye on that to make sure that our district is complying with any new rules that come down in regards to that. And then projects and goals for the department. I've already touched on a few of them. The bike share program, we're going to pilot that soon. The electric vehicle to grid buses, that goes hand in hand with the alt fuels and Holy Cross. Holy Cross is really excited to partner with us on this. This allows our electric buses to kind of give power back to the grid. And we started this conversation with Holy Cross actually after the Lake Christine fire. And the concern became that the Upper Valley would lose power due to the fire. So when you have a vehicle to grid electric buses, you actually have a mobile power unit then, where our buses can go charge where there's power, come back and offload our power into the grid. So then not only becomes a benefit to the district and the fact that we can sell back power and cover our fuel costs that way, but it also becomes, you know, in an emergency situation, we just provided the community with power as well. And the last two items are the mechanic CTE program. You know, we used to have that a number of years ago, and it keeps popping up in conversations with longtime locals who maybe graduated here and remember the mechanic program that we used to have on site here. And so I've started initial conversations with CMC about this. And as I think there's a positive motion for that, that we can actually see this not start maybe next year, but the following school year, be able to offer this to our high school students. And finally, one of my last goals, not last, but on this list, is trying a way to lower our high school exit transportation costs, which then could lower the costs that parents have to pay for exit. And that's really it. Finally, is just out of districts. We didn't do that this year, but we are going strong into next year and even 2022, 2023.
Reagan, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So what are some thoughts about how to lower the exit transportation costs?
You know, we've had a couple different discussions. Linda says that the district may have a potential pool of money that was supposed to be for exit that we can then utilize to kind of lower the costs. The other thing that we've looked at is maybe looking at all of the trips. What are the costs for transportation for all of the trips, and maybe then kind of spreading it out evenly between the trips. So we don't have ones that have super high transportation costs and then others that have really low ones.
Thank you.
Reagan, yeah, just one comment, Reagan, if you could maybe give a little more of a sales pitch for your out of district thing that you were talking about, because I've used it in the past prior to being a school board member, the buses for an event, and it was fantastic. So perhaps give you 30 seconds to just do a sales pitch on what we offer as a district to our community.
Sure. So, you know, we offer our large buses and our mini buses with our drivers for community events, whether it's wedding transportation. We've done shuttle buses for the X Games. We've done the shuttle buses for Jazz Aspen. So we really run and provide large scale transportation to this community in various ways. We try and work with all of the people who contact us. Obviously, we put our routes and our activity trips that are at school first prior to any events that we book, and we're very upfront on that on the front side with these people. But from everyone I've worked with, we are apparently fantastic to work with. We're on time, we're friendly, we're very clean, and we're very responsive. So I think we do a fantastic job.
And I would also add cost effective too.
Cost effective, very much so.
Sorry for the shameless pitch. I couldn't help myself.
Dwayne, you have a question?
I just wanted to commend Reagan for the work, obviously over the last year or two, but most notably, I really appreciate Reagan. You pitching in and recognizing the individual team members. You are right. You've got a fantastic cadre that handles all of our transportation duties. There's a lot of deep tenure in that group, a lot of recognizable faces, just strong community members. I really appreciate your leadership on that and your style. Your style of leadership, I think, is really responsive and is you enable a lot of this growth and freedom of action and some great problem solving that occurs day to day. And I think it's a real strong attribute to the district. So job well done, Reagan, and keep it up. We really appreciate all the work that you've led.
Well, thank you, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, Susan?
Yeah, I just have a question also. I know it's always challenging to find drivers, and I just wonder how many you are short, you feel like in a perfect world, how many more drivers you would like, and if there's any hope on that front.
Well, I mean, the qualifier is, are we talking about a single bell schedule or 2-bell schedule? Single bell schedule, I would need ideally 9 more drivers to make that pull off. So that's cover 4 additional routes and then have 5 substitute drivers who aren't myself and my mechanics out there driving every day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So single bell schedule 9. For 2-bell schedule, we are just about at covered all of our routes. However, now with the 2-bell schedule, since we do have staff who are elementary school teachers or middle school teachers, there's always going to be a run a day they can't cover. Because obviously elementary school starts before the middle school and high school. So they wouldn't be able to run the middle school, high school morning route, just as the middle school and high school ends after elementary school ends. So they can never cover the elementary school afternoon route. So I currently have to kind of marry 2 people onto 1 run to be able to cover all runs. So I think I would really ideally like probably another 6 individuals. That's in a perfect world where again, myself and my mechanics aren't driving every day.
Right.
I did send out a sign-up sheet for our CDL training course, and I'm remiss, I meant to add it to this presentation. We do have a training course scheduled for July and August with our driver trainer, Benta Doolin, fantastic individual. And so I'm hoping to also send that out to the community to see if we can get any more. We did get quite a few people actually sign up for that. So I can make a lot of magic work, even if I just have 10 substitutes, even if they're not driving all the time. So if you're just willing to substitute, I can make that work as well.
Great. Awesome. Jonathan, any questions, comments? You're good. Great. Thank you so much, Reagan. That was awesome. Yeah, you've done a lot of work.
All of your work.
Yeah, great work, great.
And your team.
And good luck to the dog. Hope it doesn't thunder anymore.
Thank you.
Okay, board members updates. Susan, want to start?
Sure. Just real quick, I just wanted to follow up. We got a suggestion after our last meeting for some action steps around equity that we could do as a board. And so I just wanted to kind of mention them and express that we're working on them. One is to post a link to our BOE resolution on our board priorities page. And we had discussed that resolution at a meeting in July last year, and we got bogged down with other things, and and so it didn't go further than that. So we need to bring that back, just get comments from equity team and board members, and then pass that resolution formally and post that on our priorities page. So that's one of the items. Then just to add an agenda item for each meeting where we could get a report from the equity team. We could give updates on trainings and outreach and various things equity related. So that was the other suggestion. And I know that that's, something that we'll put on our agenda for future, hopefully fairly soon meeting, and get to work on some of those. So I just wanted to give that little update. Right. Dwayne?
I'll be brief. Got a couple of quick additions to the Housing and Facilities Advisory Group. We've got 3 names are confirmed. We mentioned them last week. Brad Schlosser, Bob Bowden, and Craig Rogers. Those are all carryover individuals from the community who have served on AEF. They would like to serve on that advisory group as we move through the facilities and housing work. So those are names that have already been passed to and worked with Dave and Eliza. So thank you there to coordinate with them. A lot of high school end of season, end of year planning and final preparations for a lot of events and activities, obviously heading into graduation. So I've been involved with a lot of that. We've got one of ours that's graduating. And also there's, I just wanted to tip my hat to the Aspen Community Schools annual hoedown. If you guys remember, in addition to the contracted school or student member funds that go to this community school through the district, their primary other source of fundraising is their hoedown. They conducted that this past weekend. Had a really strong turnout. It was a really well organized event there on the campus, and they were able to also present the all school film that was, if you guys know, each year they do typically some theater and a play, all school play. They decided to go ahead and do a film presentation. Very well received. 2 nights, Friday and Saturday night, yeah. And then on the sports front, we got that Schedule D cranking away right now. And girls soccer is doing pretty well. We did a couple of games there. I'm an assistant baseball coach, and we're not doing so well on the baseball front, but the mojo is building. So we play it tomorrow. We play Holt Ridge. Come on down midday at Crawford Field. That's all I got.
Great, thank you. Katie?
Sure. Let's see. So the elementary school principal search is underway, and we've had our first meeting last week just to talk about the do's and don'ts of HR. So it was a good start to that. Also, there was an extremely exciting Aspen High School girls lacrosse game last night versus Roaring Fork. They were down like 4 or 5 goals and scored in the last couple of seconds and won. So it was in the pouring rain, nonetheless. So pretty cool. And the whole community of lacrosse kids that go up through the Aspen Lacrosse Club were there, cheering on the girls. It was pretty exciting. Then also this morning, the 8th grade moved out into outdoor ed. Or yesterday morning, and then tomorrow. So 3 days in a row. We got them all through COVID testing on Friday, which was quite a undertaking. So it was pretty cool seeing all 120 some kids.
Hi.
Seeing all 120 kids float through there in the morning. So they were all extremely enthusiastic about their opportunity to kind of make up their 8th grade outdoor ed trip. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Jonathan?
No, I was out of town last week visiting a formal high school, Aspen High School graduate, and helping him move. So about it. That's my update.
And I'll just mention that I was lucky enough to join about a dozen elementary school teachers with the author of The Knowledge Gap, which I had just read in the study group. And it was, I think Dave was there. And it was fascinating and really exciting that we're really honing in on how to teach our kids so they really retain knowledge and learn to read and write in a really effective way. So that was very exciting. Let's move on to the superintendent update. Dave.
Great. Thank you very much. Eliza's teeing it up. Really want to recognize, a lot of unsung heroes this year. Transportation is just one of them. They did an incredible job and you got a sense of it, but our food service and custodial crews were also incredibly flexible and adaptive this year. And our schools are phenomenally clean. The meals that the food services continue to provide are fantastic and loved by staff and students alike, which not many school districts get to say that. So, hats off to the leadership of Tennille and her team, and Jorge and his team. So we're very pleased and appreciative because this has been a grueling year for all of the folks who are supporting, our core mission, which is the classroom experience. But definitely want to quick thank you to all of them for just an incredible year, and our successes are because of that. So anyway, really got me thinking. And speaking of things that got me thinking, Songs for a New World was just a phenomenal production. Got to catch it Sunday afternoon, brought a tear or two to my eye, and just the talented kids, best they could in a COVID cramped production. So,
And it's being
Logan-
streamed on Thursday and Friday and Saturday.
So
we have 3 more days that we can watch.
So it's pretty awesome. Heartily encourage it. Hats off to the kids for a great production, and Logan Carter for all her phenomenal work on this. But that was really, really neat to see that production. So again, we're going to talk briefly about summer and summer learning opportunities, our summer boost camp, which we're very pleased to offer for the first time ever this year. You can see the number of kiddos who've signed up for it. We did reach out to the community school today to invite them to participate as well. I think any opportunity for kids to keep learning is great. This is a phenomenal deal. You get 5 weeks of just great learning and fun, and for under $100 a week, it's tough to beat. So just plugging shameless. This falls into Katie's shameless plug event. So here we are. We're shamelessly plugging it. It looks to be a really, really terrific opportunity. Please sign up so that we can save a spot for your kids. This is what, outreach from Aspen Family Connections. This is informational, and I want to thank Sarah, Meg, and Lauren for putting this on and invite people to participate in this. It's basically a conversation about how to avoid the summer slump. So another opportunity for our families to engage. And secondary summer learning, Colorado Digital Learning for AMS and AHS students, and AHS really thinking in terms of both credit recovery as well as enrichment. And, basically not that they need to recover credits at AMS, but continue and extend the learning. So we definitely are encouraging people to take advantage of that. So The vision work that we've discussed a lot over the past year has relaunched. You can go to tejoin.com and enter this code to participate. As of a few minutes ago, we've had 152 people share 163 thoughts around what we should be, and there are well over 2,000 ratings of this. The Friday will be the last day when the exchange will close down. So definitely want to invite anybody watching and alumni, community members, staff, parents, students, anyone is welcome to participate in this visioning exercise. And we will be sharing the outcome of this with the board and this community at our next board meeting.
Dave, can I add a comment to that? Because I went through and did that thought exchange, and it was very powerful. I strongly encourage everyone listening to participate and go back once they participated and look to see what people commented on other comments. It's really a great way to share thoughts on the future of our district.
Right. This adds that. Thanks for that, Katie. This really adds to the vision piece of the strategic planning work that had begun prior to this year. So this will really allow us to, put a ribbon on that and then, develop the action planning around the work that has occurred and anchor it into the vision. But it also helps us with our bond work to make sure we're headed down the right path. So I do want to say that, right? So that even though a facility strategic plan is different than an academic strategic plan, an ideal strategic plan merges both of those into one cohesive whole. And this will be really helpful with that. Doesn't help with the spelling though. And I definitely need to get some glasses. So sorry about that vision work. All right, Eliza, we'll get off that slide now, please. Thank you, Eliza. Dan Blumberg, we will kick this over to Human Resources for a quick search committee update.
All right, guys. So just a couple of quick updates on our more prolific searches. As Katie mentioned, the search committee for the AES principal met last week. We kind of went over HR best practices, kind of the things to do and not do during a search. We will be meeting again this Thursday and every week thereafter, hopefully until we find the right candidate. We will be finalizing evaluation tools, interview questions, and that sort of thing, and getting the logistical components sorted out here over the next week or so. One thing I will say, since we're on the topic of shameless plugs tonight, is for those of you who have LinkedIn accounts or other social media, please feel free to blast our jobs out. We are a little bit late in the hiring season, and so the more exposure we can get to these positions, the better. And please don't, I guess, maybe downplay the value of a word of mouth recommendation. It is really quite incredible how powerful those can be. So the more folks we can get in these pools, the better. All right, somebody else can take the next shameless plug. As far as our other searches go, the search committee for the assistant principal in middle school, we're huddling up tomorrow for our initial kickoff. We finalized evaluation tools and interview questions there, and we'll be screening candidates shortly thereafter, ideally to get them here before the school year's out so they can meet folks. And then with the HR director search, we are doing initial interviews this week with the same goal in mind to hopefully have finalists here on campus before everybody scatters for the summer. So I think those are the highlights.
Great. Thank you, Dan. And the IB next steps. Obviously, this has been a long conversation. A lot of the interest in it is moving towards a unifying framework for the district, and it's a primary recommendation from our curriculum audit that occurred last summer into the fall. Only seems like a couple of years ago.
A world away.
A world away. But anyway, Mr. Mulberry, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Bond, and good evening, members of the board. It's my pleasure to be presenting tonight. The culminating work, several members of the IB exploration team, they have been doing a fantastic job of going through all the iterations of the IB process. I got to tell you, you can imagine just talking about the front end of the year, thinking about all of the things that was going on with COVID and all that, to undertake such a process by being received at the time, like just adding one more thing, but I got to tell you, the team has really come up to speed and has done a great job of seeing exactly where it needs to go and overcoming some of the obstacles of just sitting still this year. We chose as our theme, you probably, if you've been to any of our parent meetings or school meetings, is going in the same direction. So this is a really nice idea, I think, for us as a team to embrace as a system. I just got to tell you, IB has been around now for 20 years. A third of our district has done it, and it's the culminating project for everybody that goes through our system. It matches our values. It asks of the Aspen ethos. It fosters critical thinking. It's based on project-based and experiential learning. And it also has an international mindedness and a language of having multilingual students as well. So I think all of those are things that we do as a system. It's been a long time coming. We've had 7 years of a curriculum director. I just want to point that out. And in the 7 years, we've made progress in lots of areas in unit planning, but we still do not have a unified curriculum as a system or a district. And it was, as Dr. Ba said in his earlier comments, the #1 recommendation of the curriculum audit we had completed by Joellen Killian. Other things I just want to just make sure this is important, because I think we have to understand that IB is just one piece of this puzzle in our academic journey. I think the board had placed a huge emphasis last year in the hiring of Dr. Ba and myself on what are we going to do to change the academic direction of this district. And so if you're looking at it, we're doing work currently on literacy, we're doing work currently on math, but our #1 crowning achievement is trying to get that unified philosophy around a curriculum framework that we can use as a district. Go ahead and click to the next slide. So I'm going to have Eileen talk just a little bit about the process that we started just back in November, and talk about a world where it seems like years ago that we started, just given all the meetings that have been there. But just take a look at some of the work that's been there, and I'm going to let Eileen address it a little bit further. So Eileen.
Thanks, Theron. So we started about in November, talking, Dave, Theron, myself, and other administrators about this idea of IB for all. And what you see on this slide is all of our formal meetings with dates. And there was also communication happening informally about IB as well. So after November, we followed up with you as a board, and we had some presentations from November to April. We've also had all school meetings with the elementary school, 2 at the elementary school, 2 at the middle school, and 1 at the high school. We've had exploration committee meetings from February currently, where we meet weekly for an hour. We talk about next steps. Where are we? What are the questions that are coming up? We've had a parent evening meeting, also followed by 3 parent breakfasts to follow up on other questions and just make sure our information is getting out. Let's see, we've had ongoing IB representatives. That's one of our most familiar representatives is Robert. We've been meeting with him ongoing. Also, we've been meeting with directors from IB, IB Arms, other leaders through IB schools and IB representatives in these meetings. We've had 8 principals meetings with updates and 3 DAC committee meeting updates. And we've had 6 parent communications that were in English and in Spanish. I'd like to also add the exploration committee that meets weekly has 18 consistent members, including administration. So we have a lot of outreach going on, and we can head to the next slide. So within these meetings, specifically in the meetings with the schools and with the parents, we gave some surveys. Although we've been giving more surveys than what you see here, these are more like the culminating surveys that happened at the end of April and the beginning of May. So at the end of our presentations and talking about what IB might look like in each of the schools, we asked one question of the survey: are you in favor of moving forward? So the yeses, you can see this. Yes is blue, no is red. in the middle, so the top one is the elementary school, where we didn't have any no's. In the middle school one, the red section makes up 5 of the 32. And in the high school, there were no no's as well. There's exact qualitative feedback in the blue link. So we can look at that later. We can go to the next slide. Or this is the parent presentation. So the parent presentation with survey is the one on the left. These are the parents that came to either the evening presentation or the breakfast. And what you can see with that graph versus the right graph is that there's definitely more yeses in the survey when parents were given that presentation directly. The presentation was emailed out with the right graph, but we can see that definitely with being present for the presentation, we see some more yeses in there. And yeah, the comments are linked in here for looking at later. Back to you, Theron.
Thank you, Eileen. And I just want to say thank you so much to Eileen, who's been just a formidable presence behind the scene, making sure that this is organized. And as you can see, the number of meetings and things that had to be operated, there were multiple logistic concerns in that. So the team did a great job of doing that. And just some of the general statements and feelings and issues that arose from the comments we tried to capture here and address in the right column. So you guys can see this. Will the PYP and MYP include all students? Both the PYP and MYP include all students. It's not a separate program. I think there's always a feeling like they think it's like the diploma program where you have to apply and be a part of it. Even with the diploma program, we no longer operate in that format. It's an IB for all message. That means that everybody is participating not only in the diploma program, but in the PYP and the MYP programs. It is automatically inclusive of the entire school. So all students are involved. How will the implementation of the IB, PYP, and MYP change the current course offerings? I think everybody's very concerned what will happen to what we already do. Teachers will be implementing the unit planning over 3 years. I want that to be very, very clear. It's not something, we're not going to get a 3-reading binder at the beginning of the year and start a curriculum. That's not how it works. We'll have a process of training staff, moving them towards the goal. We'll have a process of learning how to write unit plans, moving that towards the goal. We'll have a process of visiting exemplar schools, and that will also move us towards the goal. So just know that it's not going to be something that's overnight. It's something that we will definitely do over time and with fidelity. Will the staff be supported through this change, and why now? Okay, the implementation does not happen overnight. It'll be supported with PD time and new calendar. That is something that we're working to develop. In addition to that, this is something that is incredibly important. I've said this before to the board and have addressed you about this in meetings before, is we will also have coordinators at each level. It'll be teacher supported. It'll have the capability of one teacher making sure that all of this is happening rather than being ran from a central office and having an administrator that only gets time as they can get it. This will be something that become part of the practice of the building. So we think that that's going to be a different approach in approach of curriculum development that we haven't had before. So I'm very excited about this. What about students with learning needs? That's been a very big concern that's been brought up the entire time we've talked about IB. And I just wanted to point out a stat that Robert shared with me. 50% of all applicants for the PYP and MYP programs are Title I schools. I think that the impetus behind IB in recent years has been to be that of inclusion. And I got to say it, and I say it every time I have this meeting, what's best for the best is best for the rest. You better have high expectations when you go out there and look to raising the bar for all students, because I think that is really an attempt at making sure that we have parity and equity in our schools. All of those special curricular programs will be supported with that as well. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. I want to just take a minute and have some of the teacher teams talk to you about what their feelings are with it. I love the fact that we're doing this as a team presentation. It's definitely not a one-person show in any stretch of the imagination. So we'll start with Sarah After from AMS.
Thanks, Theron. And for those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Sarah After, and I'm a 6th grade teacher at Aspen Middle School. I joined the IB exploration team with an open mind, but also very critical. I've been in education for over 20 years and I've seen different initiatives come through and leave. And I needed to be convinced that this was something that I felt was great for students, that would be raise the bar for our district, that would raise the bar for all of our students. And through the process of our exploration, I have been convinced that this is an excellent direction for us to go. And there's a couple of reasons why that I've been convinced. One is the theme of the slideshow, that rowing in the same direction. We have this unique opportunity of being one campus, yet we have pockets of excellence. We have some amazing teachers, amazing things happening, but they're happening in more islands than across the board. This IB framework, pre-K through 12th grade, would help us work together on making islands into our own little universe of Aspen School District excellence, bringing us together. And with that, it provides the structures, the support, the professional development, where the teachers are helping each other think about how we can help kids be thinkers. And that's pre-K through 12. So the reason why I like it is it's not just one subject. I've worked a lot with the math team. It's not just one grade level. I've worked a lot with the 6th grade team. It is across subjects, across grades, that we are helping kids be thinkers. And that's going to look different from preschool to high school, but that's where we get to row together, unify, and come up with what that looks like in our school district, because this has already been happening for over 20 years, 1960 something, from when IB was started. And we can learn from what is already there and have it help our district, so that we are raising the bar for all students and having excellent thinkers. I'll pass it over to Jen.
Hey, Sarah, just the middle school was the highest, had the highest number of people that were resistant. And I think also in the past, when this has been talked about, there was a lot of resistance in the middle school. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
from your perspective?
definitely. And I would say that it's 5 out of the 30 something that filled out the survey. And I happen to know the majority of who those were. And I've had conversations, not with all of them, but for the people that wanted to talk about it. And it happens, it's more about the timing piece of the year that we've been through, the change in administration, and then how the support of the implementation will happen. From the conversations that I've had with people, it is not the framework themselves, although I haven't had the conversation with all 5. I've had it with 3 of those people. So it's not the framework, it's more on the implementation, and then the trust that teachers will be supported to do the best in this. And so that's where I think all of the pieces were at from the people that I talked to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my turn. So I'm Jen Liddington. I teach 2nd grade at the elementary school. I think I know almost everybody here. And so I'm not gonna be as organized as Sarah, because that's just not me. And but I did want to start with my misconceptions of IB. I've been around the district for a really long time. I went to school here. My sister went to school here. And before I really went through this whole process with the team, I thought IB was something that really smart kids that did science and math did at the high school. And that really was what I thought. And then a couple of years ago, I had some kids who I knew that started doing IB, and I said, well, what classes are you taking? They said, well, IB art. And I was like, wait, there's IB art? Like, how cool. And so it kind of gave me a different perspective that that the kids, if they're interested in something, they can do it. And they don't have to be the smartest kid or really interested in math or really interested in science or English. And then my niece is in the IB art this year, and she's been talking about it. And so she's been really excited. So that was my misconception. And then I started this team, and it's just been pretty amazing to think about how all kids will be reached. And one thing that really struck me is that for my own child, I have a daughter who's in 4th grade, and she's an artist, and she's really creative, and her executive functioning skills are not great. But I'm super excited for her to have this opportunity, hopefully next year, and be able to be reached and have her needs met as a person. She's not that mathematician. She's that creative person that, you know, can she do her book report in a play or in a dance or in a piece of artwork. And I think that's going to be really eye-opening for so many kids. And as a teacher, I think I'm so excited to be able to learn so much about the IB learner profiles and how all different kids are all different kinds of thinkers. And we know that already, but I really can't wait to dig deeply into that and integrate the contents and, you know, get those kids pre-K through 12, getting similar methods of teaching at different levels. And so we know, you know, when they're in 2nd grade, they're learning inquiry this way, and then they're doing something similar even in 6th grade, just at a higher level, but we know how they're being taught throughout the whole grade, the whole school experience. And I think that can be really amazing for our students and for our parents to kind of know like what to expect. I think that's kind of an exciting piece of it as well. And then as a teacher too, I think we were really worried as a team about the training. And this is just one more thing we have to add to our plate. And the way that it's going to be done is so mindful. And I think going slow to go fast is just such a great philosophy, and we can take our time to do it the right way. So I'm really excited about it. And I think it can just be so amazing for our school. So off to you, Megan.
Hi, everybody. Great to see everyone again. So in my years in the district for 14 years, I've been teaching pretty much everything. And this year I teach the L2 or an algebra section, and then I also have my IB analysis HL courses. So I have been teaching the IB math for 6 of my 14 years here in the district. The high schools had the IB diploma program for 11th and 12th graders for 20 years. In the past 5 years, we've increased the IB course offerings to make sure all students have access to the IB diploma courses. Not only have we brought courses to the school to meet all student levels, but we've also raised the bar, and the students have met and exceeded these expectations. We believe the IB program is the best approach to teaching and learning. The IB learner profile supports the high school's design principles, which are educating the whole child, creating opportunities for authentic learning, and making sure our students are connected, principled, and willing to embrace challenges. Having an inquiry-based curriculum creates conceptual understanding of content, as well as critical thinking and problem-solving skills. I'm sure we've all heard this before, but in today's global age, the next generation will need these exact skills to be successful in the increasingly complex world. We are responsible to prepare the next generation for their future, not our past. The days of memorizing and learning to do the work will not help the next generation. They need a love of learning and an understanding that the learning is the work. I believe one of our biggest challenges in the diploma program at the high school currently has been that lack of common language and framework for authentic student inquiry in the prerequisite courses. When students enter the diploma level courses, they are being challenged by a rigorous curriculum, as well as being asked to make major jumps in their thinking and learning all at the same time. With adding the middle years program to our 9th and 10th grade classes, as well as the middle school, and then having the PYP program in place, we're going to be preparing our students for even higher success in the diploma program, as well as their future endeavors. I'm so excited about this vertical alignment in the IB pre-K to 12th grade program, and that our small district has this amazing opportunity. We have desperately needed this consistency, framework, and guidance for education for the whole child, intellectually, socially, emotionally, and for their post-secondary success. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, team. All right, the next slide, Liza. So, I wanted to put this up here just so you could see just how this will roll out. This is how the authorization process looks moving forward. And I have, Robert Kelty has been a part of this. He's with the IBO. And I think he's been to every parent meeting. I think he's been to every staff meeting. And I think Dave and I are going to add him to the payroll here for the Aspen School District. But I just thought, Robert, would you mind sharing a little bit what you think around or sharing how this authorization timeline looks and works from your perspective?
Absolutely. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Right. Superintendent, Madam President, members of the board, thank you for having me. It's been a real honor working with this district and this exploratory committee. They are so committed to what's best for kids. I'll never tire of working with this district. In terms of timeline, the district is what we call the consideration phase. And that is where a district or a school does the necessary homework to study the IB, analyze its vision and mission, understand inquiry-based learning, understand international mindedness, bilingualism, and ensure that those focus align with the district's vision and mission. And when a district or school decides to move forward, they apply for candidacy. And this is a period of time where a school puts those necessary pieces into place. And sometimes that can take 2 years, sometimes that can take 3, you can go up to 5 years. Typically it takes 2, but that's where a school is building out their program of inquiry, including the subject groups, putting the exhibition project into place, the community and the personal project, and really building that vertical and horizontal alignment. And then once all those pieces are in place is when they notify our authorization department that they're ready to be authorized as an IB World School. They're visited now virtually because of COVID, but more than likely it'll be an in-person visit, and they talk to students, teachers, parents, everyone in the school community, and really reflect on, have we really talked about the learner profile in a meaningful way? Have we talked about the approaches to teaching and learning? Are we doing inquiry-based learning pre-kindergarten all the way up to the diploma program? And after that verification, that's when a school is labeled an IB World School. And at the end of this presentation, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Robert. We really appreciate your help with this. And I know that this is one of the things a lot of people have questions about, is how the authorization process goes. But I think that pretty well lays it out as far as the PD and all of the moving pieces of that. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So this is some things that I know that have been lingering as questions. So I think with PD is one of the things that everybody's been very worried about. Are we going to be supported through this process? So we're looking at a couple of different ways of making that happen. One, we'll be sending teams off this summer, where I don't know if you have seen or not, but if we do get approval to move forward with the IB process, we'll hire coordinators. We'll make sure that the leaders of the school and the coordinators are trained first. That'll be the cadre that will start the process moving forward. MYP will actually be trained before PYP. I know that seems odd, but they have to be trained in content-specific groups. So that's how they'll do it. They call it a Category 1 training. And we'll start to put together those teams that will go and do that work. With the primary years program, we can do the Cat 1 training with one trainer. We can fly them out here. It's a little bit different style of training, but that's the plan in order to get that implemented at the elementary school. The coordinators I've talked about. We've taken the liberty to post a coordinator position pending board approval. So if we can get those things put in place, we do hire those coordinators. The principals have an opportunity to backfill any of the vacancies that may cause, and also gives us a chance to get a very good and healthy and robust applicant pool as we move forward. The cost links there, you can see what the process is going to cost on the high end, and everything that is costing money with the IB program is typically the training side. Right now, the application process for each group, PYP, MYP, is $4,000, making it a total of $8,000 to move forward. And finally, collaborative time, reiterated over and over and over from the staff. So we have that both in school days and in teacher teams and with our PD days as we start to develop that calendar for next year. So those are all things that have surfaced to the top. And I think, are there any questions around that before I move forward?
Yeah, Theron, I have one. The coordinators' positions, are they going to be school-centric or program-centric? i.e. if you have a middle years program that, goes from 7th through 10th, will that person be coordinating the middle years program, or would that person be coordinating the middle school?
I'm so glad you asked that, because I think one of the fascinating features of how the PYP program is structured, you'll have the 5th grade will be part of the PYP, and the 9th and 10th grade will be part of the MYP. So what that will do, Katie, is automatically make them have fidelity to the program. And so you'll see the overlap happening between the buildings, which I think has been a missing ingredient when we tried to do the pre-K through 12 processes before. So I think that will, or at least I surmise, that will be a huge change for a lot of the things moving forward with how we do business with PD and how we include one another in our internal communications building wise. So I think that's going to be a very nice bridge between programs.
So it will be program specific, not school specific.
That was a long-winded answer to that. I apologize for that.
Yes. Okay. Just wanted to clarify. Yeah, I thought that was what you said. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Of course. And finally, one more slide. Thank you, ma'am. I just wanted to say this. This is something that I've said to the team on multiple occasions. We often think there's going to be somebody coming in from an outside agency that's going to help us and change everything and make it better. That is rarely the case. What really creates change and a lasting change in the district is being willing to pull up your bootstraps and get the work done. We are the ones we've been waiting for. This is the team. This is the time. This is the way that we can make this work. And I just think that, I've seen a lot of the curriculum work over the last 5 years here, stutter step because of various reasons and miscalculations. And I just think not making a decision and getting us in the right direction would be a misstep, even though we had all the challenges that we've had this year. So I just wanted to say that as I concluded and turn it back to Dr. Baugh for the resolution phase.
Yeah, thank you, Theron. And I think it's really important to recognize, the team, the exploration team that has been doing this incredible work. This is, I think, the right step. And I always think that the time to do the right thing is right now. You don't want to wait. You don't want to kick it down the road. There's been an incredible amount of effort that's gone into this, and I'm not going to read all these names, but we're truly grateful to all the leaders on this page that have been to countless meetings. Theron and I were talking earlier about Robert Kelty and putting him on the payroll. I just want to go on the record saying, Robert, we do have an elementary principal here local, and we'd certainly love to talk to you about that too. Just let the IB know we're coming poaching and that sort of thing.
Isn't he right next door in Utah?
I think he's on, Robert, are you in DC? I forget.
I'm currently based in DC, yes.
Yeah, that's a great place to be from. Just want to tell you, there's nothing like Aspen. And, so anyway, we are grateful for all your help and contributions to the team on this project. I'll talk to you later about the elementary principalship. But, and I really want to thank the team. Obviously we're going to ask the board to approve the application process for PYP and MYP, and that's item 7.2. That pretty much wraps up, just an incredible amount of work to get us to this point. We think it's the right thing, and it's the next steps to take would be to apply and begin the trainings. So for tonight, we're going to ask for you to approve the application, and so we can keep this ball rolling. I think you can sense the excitement. It's tangible. You've got some phenomenal educators who have lent their shoulders to pushing this rock up the hill. And, I think it puts a real ribbon on a long conversation in this district. Does the board have any questions for anyone on the team. And Robert is still here with us. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
My only question is that by adopting that resolution or proposal, that it wouldn't slow down tweaks that may still be necessary at the high school.
So education, and for everybody on the call, knows that this is an iterative process, and that we're continually tweaking all kinds of things. And sometimes, as educators, we've tweaked too much, too fast. We're not quite sure what caused what. But that's a Theron answer to a good question. That's a great question. We will continue to evolve and grow the program across the boards.
I've just one comment. First of all, just phenomenal work by everyone. I have not seen a presentation so well thought out, a process so well thought out, and a group of people all on the same page so much in our district, and the entire time I've been on the board. So thank you all for that. I think it. I think there's a pretty clear consensus on what the goals are as well, in terms of raising rigor, consistency of education and outlook, pre-K through 12, and teaching every kid to his or her level. It's not just the IB diploma program, it's everything. So I am super excited about it, and want to congratulate you all on all your efforts, and a job really, really well done.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I would just like to say that it was a extensive process. Thank you for reaching out and getting input from everybody, and also helping to address their concerns along the way. And I would just reiterate that, I think we made, as a board, when we hired Dave and Theron, we asked them to make sure that academics was priority. I think IB is a great tool. And so I think, in terms of this is the recommendation of you guys and moving forward, I definitely think that's the right path. I would just say that we also don't want to lose sight of the goal. IB is a tool to get to having a great education for everybody and helping everybody to reach their full potential and getting us all aligned. But we need to remember that that's the end goal, that this is just one way to get there. That does follow in I'll say very deliberate sequence that we went through, getting a curriculum evaluation, trying to find where our weak spots were, having this be part of that recommendation, then evaluating it with our community and getting feedback from everybody and having positive response to that. So hats off to everybody for that. That will be what I'd say. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you all very much. That's amazing.
That
Great work.
concludes the
Exciting.
superintendent's update.
Great. Moving along. Budget discussion. 15 minutes. Could be less if you want.
Please. Kind of hard to follow.
But I do want to give you guys just a quick update. We've been meeting with in the last week with AEA, and the talks are moving along. We did not reach consensus in our last meeting, but that's not a bad sign. It's just a lot of information and a lot of stuff to go through and digest on there. I feel like we all now identify the end result and what we're trying to get to, and that was a good feeling, when we were in these negotiations, talking with AEA, knowing that we all are on the same page and we want to get to the same goal. So I have to kind of leave it right at that, since we're going to be meeting again tomorrow and talking there. I have updated the website that has our budget out there, proposed budget. And I have not received any kind of comments or feedback from the public on any questions or concerns. So let you know there. And so that is my update. I wanted to kind of leave it open in case somebody had any questions. Yeah, go ahead.
So Linda, the final steps of process to ratification and approval by the board, June 30. Is that the deadline, or is it June 28th? What does it look like from here to there?
June 11th meeting, I think, is our next date, right, Eliza? That's where you all will have an opportunity to vote and approve on it. By state statute, we have to have it adopted by June 30. If we do not have a budget adopted by June 30, you automatically turn over to 90% of the prior year's adopted budget.
Is June 11th our next meeting?
Yeah.
June 1st is our next meeting, and then June 11th is meeting.
Thank you, Eliza. So you have June 11th and June 1. I would highly recommend as a preparation, either the 1st or the 11th, that you, and we allow time on the agenda to go a little deeper for the community's benefit and walk through all the pieces and parts, obviously, that compose the proposed budget, such that we can conclude with a good body of information and have that final discussion in Benny prior to the vote. I think it's really important for the community to see that. The fact that we haven't had a lot of feedback from the proposed budget sitting on the website doesn't necessarily mean that it's lacking in interest or controversy. I think it really is important for us to make sure we go through it again. Does that make sense, Linda?
Yeah, I would like to kind of work that over with the FAB, if that's all right.
With the what?
With the FAB.
Well, for sure, but that's an advisory group. You gotta, please don't hold anything back from us. I mean, I want to expect the 1st, the 11th to be a full and comprehensive and robust conversation.
Okay.
I mean, you could consult with the FAB all day, every day. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I just would not want to see anything muted at the public meeting. Is there?
No, I mean, I'm more than willing to go really in depth and talk about it for hours, but I just want to make sure I'm not going so far in the weeds that it's not valuable information.
Dwayne, can you help me understand the concern? I mean, what we've been working with Linda is to try and summarize the information in a way that's easily digested by the broader community, as opposed to, getting too down and dirty in the 45 pages of detail.
For sure.
But is there a specific concern, or?
You done?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not asking for a play-by-play at 45 pages, but I am surely asking for some consistency with the public process and the ability to unpack at a, if you will, a sub-budget by sub-budget, sub-account by sub-account, not line item by line item, but by program, as we typically do. We need to walk through all the sub-accounts. There's multiple sub-programs that compose the overall budget, not just the general fund. And I think it's deserving to the community to at least spend 30 minutes. I didn't say 3 hours, but 30 minutes at a summarized level. And I don't ever want to see the FAB become a surrogate for detail and decision-making. That's a little fearful for me. I don't ever want to see the FAB. I don't think anyone in the community wants to see the FAB become the surrogate for review and approval.
Because that work needs to be done in public.
It has to be done in public, absolutely. And the FAB, it's great, it's a work session, but it's not a publicly called board meeting by statute. Linda, I don't mean to be aggressive. I apologize for my tone, I really do, but I kind of worry about, hey, we kind of delegated it down to the FAB, and we could just kind of stay at the one pager. I don't think that's appropriate for the public.
I mean, we can certainly do that. There's been an inconsistent message from this board.
We could do it. We have always done it.
Well, I understand that. The message that I felt like we were getting is we were getting too far into the weeds in public and to line item by line item. and that we were asked to take some of that out and give more of a summary. If that's not the case and the board doesn't want to see a summary, you know, at what point is the other question I think we need to talk about, because we've been pushing more towards summary information throughout this year, not just in the budget process, but in the review process. So if that's not the direction we want to go, we should have a conversation as a board about what level we want to talk about in public. All of it is publicly available. And Linda is happy to chat with anybody at any time about it. So the question is to what depth we go and when.
Okay, so it's an easy one. Where decisions are made, it should be made in public. It should never be made in an advisory work session where decisions are made. So that.
Dwayne, where are you getting an idea that that's happening? I mean,
yeah, we're an advisory board. We're not making decisions.
Yeah.
We're advising on presentation. There's the decisions are coming from Linda and the
Dave and
superintendent.
Linda propose the budget. We give them feedback on what we think is a good way to present it in a summarized manner, and that's it. So we are not making decisions. The decisions are made by the board. The board is given full transparency of the information. So, I mean, that's the way it's working, Dwayne. So we don't get confused about what's happening. So the FAB is not filtering anything.
When the staff says, I'd like to do that work with the FAB, how do you respond to that? When I ask for a presentation, the staff says, I'd like to do that work with I'd like to do some of that work with the FAB first.
Well, because I think Linda has found it helpful that when we review the material that she's looking to present, that we give her some tips and pointers on how to present it. Saying, hey, you know, why don't you do an executive summary about this? Why don't you combine these 3 slides? I mean, those are the types of things that are going on. So
you're not.
What was that?
You're giving tips and advice. You're not filtering at all. Is that what you're saying?
We're not filtering.
It depends on what your definition of filtering. If you say I'm taking a 20-page PowerPoint and making recommendations on how to present that in 5 pages, then, you know, if you think that's filtering, then yes. If you think that that's optimizing and trying to get the key messages across that Linda then agrees with, because they are recommendations, and you know, you can see on my emails that I write, it's like, here's my recommendation, take them or leave them. And I think that's the role of all of us in any recommendations we make to the staff as well. And you know, just like I had recommendations about the IB presentations that I made via email, and it was taken or left. So some of them made them in, some of them didn't, but that's because the administration's job is to present the material that they think is appropriate. So, so I don't call it filtering. I think I call it the active role of a board, give advice. And then the administration takes that advice.
It's got to be, our work's done in public.
Yeah.
So the question again that I'll go back to, what's the harm, or what's the pushback for asking for a 30-minute review, sub-account, sub-fund by sub-fund? We all know that the general fund's but one of many funds that we actively manage, that we have authority over and responsibility, a fiduciary duty over. And so a 30-minute review at the sub-account level, such that we can unpack, if necessary, any one of those accounts and have any type of exploratory conversation, which, let's be clear, in process, Linda, last meeting, you introduced the package and had a lot of work session with the FAB, which we very much appreciate. And it comes to this assembly, it's 43 pages. It's got a lot of granular detail, and it's got all the supporting exhibits to it. And then this meeting, we say it's 15 minutes, and we're gonna just, hey, it's coming up. And then we say, June 1st or June 11th, we're gonna, approve it. It's like, well, slow down. We've got to have public review, and we need to be able to, if necessary, to unpack anything and to deep dive if necessary. And deep dives occur when there's a lack of confidence or some level of information for clarity or otherwise. But that's when we need to kind of go further to get ourselves comfortable that we're serving the public.
Well, and if a board member has a question, it's likely that others might have the
Yes.
same question. So to go through
Okay.
the.
But Dwayne, I have no pushback. I'm fine with that. I just think that should be something that the board members prepare for ahead of time, but and the information is out there publicly for anybody who wants to ask any question they want to ask. But if you want to spend the time, kind of walking through account by account, I'm fine with that. But no skin off my back. I just don't think it's the best use of our time as a board, but we can do it if you think it's important.
That backhanded play right there, I don't really flow really well with, so I'm just gonna let that one just sit off to the side.
Well, I'm just giving you my opinion, and I'm saying that if that's I think that's a reasonable request. I would manage it another way, but if, then let's go ahead and do that.
I have a question. I would like to understand if the disagreement here is that we didn't discuss the 43 pages, because I see all these other funds in the 43 pages. I see it's the bond redemption, the building fund, the Snowmass Village, the APF, capital reserve. I see all the funds here. So is the concern that we didn't go through in detail the 43 pages here today?
No, not today. The concern, it's not even a concern, it's an actual process point, and by statute, we do need to review the budget at some formal level, and it's not just hey, there's the memo, got any questions? I think we owe it to the public to have our CFO walk through at a summary level, not account by account, but by fund, in a very generalized fashion, purpose, intent, like we've done in the past.
So go discuss these funds presented here.
It's a summary presentation, fund by fund, that rolls up into a total assembly that
So
then.
I take responsibility, because I said, if you want to make it shorter than 15 minutes, go ahead. But maybe I should have said, make it 20, 25.
Well, but Dwayne, just so we, aside from what happened, and I think we have clarity.
I expect that's why I was
I
saying the
see.
first and the 11th,
I
which
see.
again is typical protocol, and
I see.
the pace of the progress. Last year, we were kind of pressed with COVID, if you recall, we were kind of really squeezing it in, shoehorning in. The year before, we had a normal process, and by June, we were approving, but we had the opportunity, again, in the public's eye, all three of them that actually watch, or maybe 300, it doesn't matter, the point is matter, right? It's a public session. Today was just a check-in. I would assume you would say, hey, you got any clarifying questions so far as your review through the package?
So let's plan on having a 30-minute review of all the funds as we have done in the past. Sometimes it's taken more than 30 minutes.
With the ability for board members to ask questions. And I also want to make sure that we have time to talk about what Dwayne brought up at the last meeting, which is, do we want to, restore the fund balance that was depleted last year all in 1 year? Do we want to
Pace it out.
So maybe some options, and how those would look, Linda, if we had different amounts of that fund balance that we were restoring, so that we can have that conversation as well. I would really like to see that too.
Say 45 minutes.
It might take.
Let's take 45 minutes. Does that sound good to?
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't know so much the time is the key factor. It's more the deliverable. And so if I understood, Dwayne, just so we can have a clear expectation for Linda, the deliverable would be maybe each individual fund and kind of what are the key things that are going on with that fund, and then maybe a overall summary page. Does that meet the expectation?
It would for me, but I want to make sure that even Linda's comfortable with that, but clearly that's what we've done in the past. I'm not trying to just go to the old model. I recognize that we have evolved. And I also recognize that we're doing a better job of utilizing talents in our community. I get all that. I just want to make sure that we're not going so far that we fail to show proper care and kind of good decision process in the public's eye before we make.
I agree completely with that. I don't think there's any discussion. So it's just kind of like give Linda a clear expectation so that she knows what to do and can interpret our our direction in terms of what we would like to see as a complete board.
Well,
That's
so
it.
just if I may, can I step in here? So two things. First of all, I do want to point out that the presentation of the individual funds and the components and explanation of what is going on with them and how they're labeled and that understanding has changed remarkably from 2 years ago. So things are more clearly presented and much more understandable in terms of what is in each particular category. So I think we'll find that we'll be able to go through this much more quickly than we have in the past because it's much less confusing because it's more clearly labeled. Secondly, I want to make sure that if this is a problem, Dwayne, from the budgeting process, we revisit this multiple times a year. So I think we owe it to Linda to be very clear in terms of what level of presentation, what level of dialogue and discussion we want to have each time she is presenting something, whether it's a revised budget or whether it's just a quarterly update. Because in my mind, I don't necessarily think we should be spending an hour, every single quick update on this stuff. So I think we as a board need to be very clear on what our expectations are and to state that publicly so that the public understands what we're anticipating providing. And I'm sure we'll get feedback if that's not viewed as adequate.
Totally agree. With both comments, totally agree.
I have just one more point, and I noticed it when we were looking through our GP policies. One of our policies states that committee meetings should be public meetings. So that is an opportunity for others to know what's going on in the FAB and the education committee and whatever board committees we have. So that's something that maybe we haven't been posting. We probably need to make sure that that's done, but that's another place where there's some transparency.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Robust discussion. Thank you all. Jonathan, Katie, Susan, Dwayne, for very robust, Linda, for very robust discussion. Nice word, robust.
I do want to say one.
Yes, please.
Just know when you all are voting on the budget, you're only voting on one page of it, the appropriation page.
Yep.
Okay, just to remind you that, because it gets lost a lot in the noise, you think I'm voting on this specific line item, what if I don't want that?
Yeah, it's just a big chunky number, the
Yeah,
appropriation
chunky
number. Right.
number, you got it.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Linda.
everyone.
Thank you.
Discussion item, governance policies. It is 6:06. We will do a very excellent job going through these.
Can I just ask one question before we
Yeah.
go through these? The
Yeah.
discussion ones we had last week filled out a chart of what we wanted to discuss and what we did not want to discuss. Can we, did that get completed? Because I know, Jonathan, you didn't.
I
Yeah.
have all the ones that we don't want to discuss. in
I know,
my-
but that's where my notes were. So.
People's comments. Is Eliza, did it get?
You can, it's updated, Katie. You can just click on it.
It's not in the board docs for this week.
It is.
Try again. Try again.
Try again.
It got
I don't know if
lost.
there's Eliza's email.
It's in,
I think it disappeared and then came back.
it's in.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at an old version then.
Yeah.
All right. And it would still be under governance policies. Nope, it's not there.
Look under administrative content and board
Yeah,
docs.
there it is. The worksheet down the administrative content.
Oh, I got to relog in. It kicked me out. That's why.
All right. So we're gonna start talking in the meantime. Is that okay?
Yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure I.
So the ones that nobody had concerns about, but we just want to make sure, were the following. Governance commitment, that was G1. Speak now or forever hold your peace if you do have concerns about them. The next one was GP4, monitoring board governance process and board superintendent relationship policies.
So I have one issue with those GPs, like the 4s and 4Es. They're awfully repetitive. Like we have the same thing in multiple places. So I'm not sure why we need to do that.
We probably need to keep the monitoring and the changing of policies separate. So that's a great comment for changing the policy. It's not necessarily the monitoring part. Yeah.
So I didn't realize we weren't doing both because I have a bunch of comments about this.
Earlier this year, last fall, we went through and changed a bunch of the wording on a lot of the GPs. And we can do that again. We can do that anytime, but let's not do it today. But if you would keep track of what you would like to change and bring it to any upcoming board meeting, we can change them. I know it's difficult to monitor them if it's not saying what you want it to say. Is that your concern?
We have multiple policies that say the same thing. So we're monitoring the same thing more than once, which is kind of silly. That's my issue. Now we can go ahead and say, yes, we did it, but it is kind of silly to be doing it that way. And if we need to, do it at a different point in time, that's fine. I did not understand that I wasn't allowed to talk about that stuff today. So I will stop and we'll talk about it later.
You're allowed, but if you would make a note and send me a message or send me a message that you want to have this on the agenda to change at another meeting.
All right, message sent. Eliza's here, right? There we go. We'll talk about it later.
So GP4 was,
But
yeah.
Susie, I don't think we, I don't think we approve the other ones. I think it's later in the agenda that we're talking about. The only thing we have to do it, in theory, is my understanding on this stuff, is basically fill out GP4E with everybody's kind of comments. And then aside from that, then we need to come to like a consensus on we don't even need to come to consensus. I mean, each one could think we're in compliance or not. And then we would just eventually approve that final document. And then there's other things, I think, like you said, that are changes. So I'm not sure that we actually approve later on in the agenda, those things.
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
in the
Is
action.
that maybe Susan, who knows more, who's been doing this longer than the rest of us? Is that the correct interpretation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, GP4E is basically the checklist, but what Susie's going through now is she's looked at the table, and if we didn't say that we thought we were out of compliance on some of these, we're not going to even talk about them. We're just going to assume.
Perfect. Okay.
They're in
Agreed.
the consent agenda. Jonathan, all of these are in the consent agenda, but I thought we should just make sure nobody thought of something yesterday after they filled out GP4E that they want to bring up now.
Okay, I guess I just didn't understand what we're gonna approve in the consent agenda. Because what we need to get is a finalized version of GP4E to approve eventually.
I mean, basically what GP4E will look like, and Eliza will kind of create that, I think, for us, and I think we can vote on it in this meeting in the consent, but what it will look like is the ones that nobody has a problem with and we assume are in compliance will show as in compliance. The ones that we talk about, we will say, I don't think that we're in compliance because, and it will say that, and she will put that in 4E. Okay?
Agreed.
And to everybody's credit, we didn't do this last year, so this is the first time this new board is doing this. So it's understandable that there are lots of questions and concerns. GP5, president's role, nobody had a concern. They may have a concern today, but they didn't when they filled out GP4E.
The touchdown, it's good, it's in compliance.
Board member conflict of interest is GP10. Nobody had a
Touchdown.
concern.
11,
11 was
12.
board member financial disclosure.
14.
12 was process for addressing board member violations. 14 was vacancy fulfillment. And
15.
donor recognition was 15.
Touchdown.
Are we good with putting those in the consent agenda? Great,
Yes.
excellent.
So we're
Now,
gonna just here.
the ones number of us, for GP2, which was governing style, Katie, Susan, Dwayne, and I questioned whether wanted to either discuss it or say we were not in compliance. Do you want to start, Susan or Dwayne or Katie?
I can start.
Okay, why don't you start?
So for GP2, number 3, there's a piece that says accordingly members will not, and there are 3 bullet points. I'm not sure we have fully complied with that throughout the year. So one is assume responsibility for resolving operational problems or complaints. I think occasionally board members have taken on some operational problems when they should have relied more on the superintendent. Give personal direction to any part of the operational organization. I think we just need to make sure that we're being careful to give direction to the superintendent and not to other parts of the organization. And then orientation of candidates, that was not well done, and we were in the middle of a lot of things when our last year when we got new members, and then
That would have been 2 years ago.
so actually this is about candidates, so I'm wrong about that because we are going to do that.
Yep.
And so we can say yes, we're doing that. That's it.
Okay. And Dwayne? Did you remember what?
She hit it.
Okay, and Katie, you had a question.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to find it now. I think the question about giving direction, I had a question about what that meant. So for example, you know, we were talking about the FAB, and Jonathan and I are giving suggestions to Linda about, you know, presentations, or we might ask her to include some more information. But if Dave's not in the meeting, is that, you know, not kosher? To me, it doesn't seem like that's the spirit of it, but to the letter of it, it kind of is. So I'm, you know, this is another one of those that goes to, it's up to interpretation about the way it's written. That's my issue with that. And
I mean, I think if it's in a structure like that where, I mean, that's what the FAB does. Dave knows you're meeting with Linda in the FAB. I mean, it's not, I don't think that's out of the
Alternatively,
roles.
we could change the word to advice, give advice.
I just, if you take it to the letter of the way it's written, I would say we're not in compliance because of our committee structure. So that's my issue with this. Am I willing to let go on that because it's not the intention of the way it's written? One might argue, yeah, but
In other spots, we're not compliant. So I don't know that we need to hash it out actually, but because I think board members have given direction to other parts of the operational organization when they should not have. And so I think we're not in compliance. And if we want to rewrite that and make it more clear about what that means at another meeting, we should, but that's my take on that.
Does anybody want? Go ahead, Jonathan.
I would just, if we have examples of it, we should probably document it and say, you know, here's where we came up short, so we can get better and really understand. You know, just because I think, you know, we say board members assume responsibility for resolving operational problems or complaints. You know, where did we cross the line? You know, it might be good, Susan, to help out and just share that with us all. It doesn't have to be here and now. If people have examples of this, it would be good to let people know.
Yep, I would say just in general, it's been a unique year. So we'll just start with that. There have been plenty of operational problems and complaints. And so I think in an effort to try to, and COVID related, a lot of it, in an effort to try to address a lot of those, we board members have addressed principals, they've addressed staff members in board meetings. about those operational problems. And I don't think that's the right way that that should be done according to this policy.
Yeah, great. So at this point, I think there's three of us that believe that we have been in compliance with that particular piece of of this policy statement. We don't need to over debate it and or try to adjudicate it to right or wrong tonight. We can move on and consider this particular, this policy, GPO2, not in compliance. It's fine. It's message noted. And try to look back at it, try to, incorporate some of the messages that it incorporates.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. There's no new need to debate it, or, I mean, I'm not necessarily in disagreement. I'm just looking for understanding so that we can set up action items for improvement. And so that we can be in compliance with what our own policies are. So that's why, since this is a thing that's based on interpretation, I would just suggest that we set up a way to document that and then make sure that we're holding each other accountable in the future. That's it.
It also seems that if we we should talk about it at the time it happens so that it's all fresh and not do it just once a year. So maybe if you all notice it, let the president know.
Yep.
And I should have a meeting with, if it's me, I'll have a meeting with me, and if it's very brief.
The ID curriculum, right? Yeah.
So let's do it in real time. If you notice any violations or non-compliance in the future, let's talk about it at the time.
Sure.
Okay, everybody agree?
Yep.
Okay, I like that. All right, so next was GP3, board job description. Jonathan, you had said not just results, but how?
Yeah, so I guess this is probably a word. How do we resolve this in terms of, I mean, I think the philosophy of only results matter has kind of gone by the wayside a long time ago, and we just got in trouble for that in the recent past, is my personal opinion. So I guess we can, I'll say that we're in compliance. I just want to really kind of make sure that we have that. It's not only the result, but it's the how. We need to do it in the right way, in a responsible way that builds community and builds, is socially, environmentally responsible outside of all the other things we have to do. So
I'll say to you what I
if
said.
we need to write a policy about each one of those things, I don't know, but it's
But Jonathan,
saying
you
it.
have suggested rewording for this policy. Feel free to share that suggested rewording. Same with Katie about the other policy. Okay.
Understood.
It sounds like we're all we feel we're in compliance. Okay.
Agreed.
GP4E, Dwayne, you had a question to be determined. If you forgot your question, we can.
I think it was just a process question of GP4E, obviously is the monitoring document. So it's to be determined whether or not we're in compliance here, but it really is kind of goofy. It's a policy statement, but it's actually a measuring stick against the other policies. So I think Katie pointed this out earlier. There's a lot of repetition that rests within this particular measuring stick.
So Katie is planning to clean up some of this. You can help with her. Once you help Katie clean
I know how that is. I erase it. It goes by.
It's multiple. I think we can tighten this whole thing up.
Yeah,
So
we definitely can. Who's gonna take the lead on that? Katie and Dwayne together?
There you go. Cool.
Katie, are you willing to kind of?
yeah, it's not going to happen this week. It's a long-term thing.
Within the year, within the year.
Okay.
Still gonna clarify.
Okay. GP6 board committee principles discuss. Katie, Susan, Dwayne, Jonathan need to be able to advise, and some wanted to change. Okay, right.
Yeah, this is in direct conflict with the description of the board committees. It's kind of the same argument or discussion that I made earlier, which is it says you may not advise, yet we have a financial advisory board that half of the statement say to advise. So
So add the word advise, assist and advise, and delete and take out the
well,
word.
we can't change it now. So I would argue that we're not in
Yeah,
compliance
We're
because
not in compliance
because we
because
set
we are
ourselves up
advising.
to we set ourselves up to be to fail by the pure definition of what we're doing in other ones.
And I don't know why you would want to have a board that has, or any committee that doesn't advise. I mean,
But we
then
need to
why have the committee?
language clearly.
Well, I think direct is different than advise, so maybe.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And, you know,
or-
telling somebody what to do is not the responsibility. And I think that's at all levels of the board, right?
I'm gonna change the wording on this. Jonathan, you got GP6.
Well done, Jonathan.
Okay.
And then this is
Okay.
also.
Well, but it just, for now, we're not in compliance and make
That's
a
right.
note, please, Eliza, that we need to change the policy.
And just for, point number 6, all board committee meetings are open to the public. We just need to make sure that we're,
They didn't write.
yeah,
We're
make
posting them.
people know that. Yep.
Yep, we're posting them. They have a public link.
I would like to propose that since we're in the spirit of compliance, that we say we're compliant, but we also want to change the wording at the same time. Does anybody object to that? That we're actually in compliance with the spirit of this policy,
No,
but we are going to change the wording.
I don't know.
That sounds like a wishy-washy thing to me.
All right, we're
I
not-
would say we're.
We're
I'd
not
say
in
let's
compliance because
just face up and say
we
that we're
contradict
not in
ourselves.
compliance with the way that this was written, and but that we need to change it because the purpose of committees are to advise people. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise,
Otherwise, we don't
eliminate
need
all
to
the
have them.
committees.
Yes.
But you are cleaning up the wording. Great. GP7, thank you. Committee structure, we're gonna delete a bunch of stuff here that we already agreed to a few meetings ago. And one question here, which determines whether we're in compliance or not, is, are we gonna put the employee housing loan committee under the housing committee? Dwayne,
Sure we can.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
that seems reasonable, doesn't it? Okay. So, this whole policy has changed. Because educator effectiveness is an administrative policy, committee now. Pre-K is a administrative policy, Dave, correct? We made it pre-K.
Yeah.
And then the DAC is a statutory policy, committee, and the FAB stands alone as a, and then we're moving the employee housing loan committee to the housing committee, and we've created an education. So this whole policy has changed, and you'll reflect that pretty soon.
But we are in compliance relative to how it was written
Exactly, I agree.
this last year.
Everybody else agree?
Well, I'm not sure that we did all those committee meetings because we weren't really operating under all of the,
Well,
as it's written.
so
I would say,
So it changed a few months ago, so you're correct that during the 6 months or a year and a half since this was last reviewed, it hasn't been reviewed for about years. I don't know when the last time the preschool council met and the
Right.
educator.
so I guess it depends on what period of time we're actually monitoring, because if it's just since we changed it, this policy, then it should be good, but otherwise, probably not.
And to confirm, we are monitoring everything from last July to current.
So I don't think we operated under the previous policy exactly, and, you know, there was a lot going on, and not gonna.
And we can say, you know, it's okay not to be in compliance because of COVID or changes. It's okay. Should we say we're not in compliance? That's fine.
If we're monitoring that full period of time, I would say no.
That's fine. Everybody?
Cool.
Okay. GP7A, committee members board, code of conduct. Jonathan, Susan, discuss.
Yeah, so my point on this one is it says committee members will not make individual requests for staff or operational information without specific board authorization. So I think this comes back to then why have a committee? So if I want to if you're in a committee and you say, hey, it would be great to see the list of housing that we currently have, if you're on the housing committee. Dave, can you work that up for us? And then, oh no, I'm sorry, I have to go ask the board if I can ask Dave for that. I mean, it just kind of seems a little crazy, I guess would be the right word.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It also, it circumvents the purpose for having committees, is to actually get some stuff done and not go to Dave for every time someone needs a pencil, you know?
Read, tell me again, your number one, Jonathan, what you read was 1C or 1?
Yeah, 1C.
Will not make a
1C.
different request of staff.
Yeah, I mean,
Staff doesn't include Dave, that's
Yeah, it
staff
does.
other than this superintendent.
well, and it,
So
I mean, like we said, if I'm in a committee with Linda and I ask Linda, hey, Linda, it would be great to see the detail on XYZ thing. Could we look at that in our next FAB meeting? And Dave's not there, then I'm not complying with this.
3 or 4 years ago was that as long as you try to keep Dave in the loop and you're already having these communications with Linda, that as long as you copy Dave and he knows what's going on, that solves that issue.
Well,
Not if he's not in the meeting.
I would,
That's not.
yeah, I would put it outside of the meeting or outside of the, of the environment of the committee, because that's what a committee's for. It's there to discuss things and say, hey, what about this? And maybe we could get this information that would make the presentation clearer and.
Or change the scale on this graph because it doesn't look like anything. I mean, like silly stuff too. It seems that there needs to be a level of reasonableness in all of these things that we talk about. What's a reasonable level? And right now it says you can't do anything. And that to me doesn't seem reasonable. So right now, I don't think we're in compliance. Based on that, actually, I changed my mind because I think Jonathan's right on that one.
So should we change the word, your recommendation be to change the wording of this policy?
Well, I think yes, but B, we need to have a broader discussion because these things keep coming up. I think that the way our governance rules are written are extremely specific and kind of handcuffy, so to speak.
Can we kind of target one at a time and change the wording and one at a time and then see if it works as a whole at that point?
Well, yes, or we could have a general philosophical discussion at another point in time about, what level of reasonableness do we want to have in these and then rewrite them according to that agreement. Opposed to going through each individual one, because it's the same issue over and over again.
Why don't we put it on as a future agenda item?
Yes.
A discussion about the philosophy of these policies.
And I would only add that I believe that a lot of this script was put together perhaps with the context that most of these committees were populated by community members, citizens. And occasionally there'd be an ex officio board member participating, but not guiding and directing. I pick up on that key point by looking at the prologue of this GP7A, wherein board committees function to support the board and to assist in the fulfillment of its stated functions, period. All board committees report directly to the board, capital B, and committee members serve at the board's pleasure. So I think the context of a lot of both the committee structure as well as the committee members' code of conduct might be with that board as an ex officio member on this committee, but the board member not exercising any authority or direction or decision-making, or even allow the appearance thereof occur time to time. So I think that's going to help our conversation later as well.
If you think of the committee members as community members, it's a different thing than a board member.
Yeah, you can almost get a typical hat off and just simply say, okay, let's work on it.
And what we've done is change, we've downsized the number of committees to 3. And now it's really more board centric.
Which is a whole different conversation. And to Katie's credit, Katie, 2 board meetings ago, you corrected me on this, and I own this. I own this. You were saying, hey, Romero, on the housing group stuff, the facilities group stuff, you're kind of moving down the road a little quick. I'd like to be able to see the work product that's being developed within that advisory group slow down before you make any, decisions. And I heard that. That was important. And so it tells me that at these committee levels, we do need to kind of pump the brakes with our board authority and allow the citizen kind of, input occur, and then allow these committees and these advisory groups to report back directly to the board in general. Clearly, that's hard to deputize a bunch of committee members to do that, so we rely on individual board members to do that, but it's a good reminder to me. And I've seen, I think you heard me say it with you on the FAB. It's like, hey, before we get too far down the road, we'd like to see some of the cake before it's actually baked.
Well, and that's an important part of the discussion around, which is why I'm saying we need to have this discussion around what's appropriate. I mean, right now it's for historical reasons, I'm sure, it's gone too far to you can't sneeze without getting permission from the board. And, to be a little melodramatic about it, but it is, if you follow the letter of the law. And I think that, we need to have a discussion so we can talk about these things. And we are in compliance right now. I think we're not in compliance because we're actively engaged board members. And if we didn't do anything, then we would be in compliance.
So we'll put it as an item to discuss the philosophy, and the question is whether, in the meantime, do we want to keep track of worded verbiage that we each want to change? Do you want to start keeping track anyway, even though we're also going to have a philosophical discussion? Or do you want to just toss all these and start from scratch? I don't think we want to toss all and start from scratch.
No, I don't think but I think there is, what's the purpose? Katie is bringing up the point. What's the purpose of the committees? Dwayne, I think you make a good point about these are community members, but I also thought that the idea is to get community members involved and, bring their expertise to the table and help build the best district that we can. And if we're saying you can't do anything, there's not a lot of people that would want to sign up for that job. Just come in and listen, but you can't ask for information, you can't talk, you can't advise. What job is that? That's a rubber stamp, and I don't think anybody with any real skills is going to sign up to do that, because they're going to want to have an opinion and they're going to want to ask questions and feel that their participation is valued and it's helping, because I think that's the spirit. So this seems to be designed in the spirit of, we don't want anybody's opinion involved in anything but the board's. And therefore, we're going to neuter all these committees and neuter participation to where it's, you can't ask for anything, you can't say anything, and you can't give any advice. And so I think it actually goes against what we really want as a community, in all honesty.
Opinion about any of this, or any comments you might have about us twiddling our thumbs and
Proceed with caution.
Yeah. I think Jonathan and Katie's points are well taken. And I think some of the tweaks to make are that we are posting the subcommittee meetings, and we do want the citizens engaged in sharing their insights and expertise, right? That's what we're trying to get to. I think this is how boards grow their own, as a board, the expertise. And I think that this is the right conversation. I think sort of moving forward this evening, by scheduling a time for this conversation, on the 1st or the 11th is probably prudent at this point. And would be my recommendation, but I think this is the right conversation. I just don't think tonight's the night for it.
And in the meantime, until we have that conversation, should we keep track of the verbiage that we're not happy with, so that in case we don't toss everything, we want to go ahead. So please keep track, Katie and Jonathan and Dwayne and Susan and all of us. Let's keep track of the verbiage that doesn't work for us, so that we can have an easier time fixing it down the road after our philosophical discussion. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay, all right. GP 7A, anybody bad conduct? No. I think we're good. GP8, Susan, discuss, scheduled monitoring of all policies. We did not schedule monitoring of all policies 2D, so I
Right.
assume that's what you, yeah,
Yes.
because that's what got my attention.
Yeah.
And I think, so we're not in compliance, it was due to COVID, and I don't think we should beat ourselves up, but we're not in compliance. GP8E, discuss timing of remaining, oh yeah, so we'll, Eliza and I are in communication about, finishing this year, covering the BSRs, covering the results or goals. We have quite a few more to cover before the end of this year if we're gonna try to get it all done. And then hopefully for next year, we'll set up a real schedule that we'll try to stick to. So I guess we're also not in compliance with that, with everybody. agree?
Understandably so.
Understandably.
But yes.
GP9, not in compliance. Dwayne, Jonathan, information for committees. Everybody wanted to discuss this a little bit. So you want to start, Dwayne, or I can, anybody else want to start?
Want to go forward?
Okay, so I think that one thing we haven't really discussed is when we're in committees, are we still on this, do we still follow this same code of conduct? Because this just talks about in meetings.
Well, there's a code of conduct for committee members, so I would say.
So this is separate. This is board members. Anyway,
but it's similar. The committee members' code of conduct, I think, comes right out of this.
Yeah, they're
Out
separate.
again.
The committee code of conduct is a separate policy from board members. So this is about board members during board meetings.
Yeah.
So does anybody think that we are not in compliance with our code of conduct during board meetings?
I just had a few comments. For point number 1, board members will represent the interests of the citizens of the entire school district. Members will not publicly express individual negative judgments about superintendent or staff performance. Any such judgments will be made in full executive session. I think that we just want to really be careful and make sure that we are representing the interests of the citizens of the entire school district. And I think just the fact that we're working on an equity resolution and the equity team means we could pay more attention to that. And I also, I feel like during the year, we had some negative comments about staff performance by board members.
Yeah, that was item 2C, this particular policy statement.
Yeah.
That was my,
That was what you wanted to bring to.
and I think Susan just described it pretty well. It's got to be careful. We need to stay within our lane, focus on, addressing issues, attacking problems in public, and addressing personal matters directly with Dave and with the board in executive session, as stated. Careful with being more mindful, I think, is the takeaway for me at least.
And again, I would just say, let's keep that in real time, that feedback in real time, if we can. And maybe share it with the president, who can share it with whomever. I think that would.
Someone could just pass you a note that said GP9, number 1.
Any, Katie or Jonathan?
Yeah,
So,
that's fine.
okay, so would you like to say we're not in compliance?
Yes.
Okay. And GP13. Cost of governance, Katie's not in compliance, Susan discussed, and Jonathan discussed survey. Those were the comments.
I think that just our training, we need to really make sure we get back on track. COVID kind of put a dent in that. And so I think we need to make sure we schedule CASB and other training now that we can do those more easily. And so I would say we weren't in compliance. mostly because of COVID. And this was maybe also when I was thinking about training new board members. We weren't really great about bringing everybody on board with lots of training. We kind of threw new board members into the fire.
So my simple thing is we didn't go to CASB, therefore we're not in compliance the way this was written. I mean,
There you go.
we didn't go, so great.
And Eliza's got information about CASB in December, and so I think she's planning to sign us all up.
Is it,
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah.
It's on, yeah.
It's gonna be a Motel 8. It's actually. Broadmoor, it's gonna be
All
Motel.
right, so we're not in compliance, but we weren't naughty, it wasn't our fault. Yeah.
Keep going, and I think that's it, right?
That's
14,
it for me.
15, healthy.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I just wanted to make-
oh, sorry, just one thing, just to be clear, CASB did happen online and we chose not
Yeah.
to
Chose
participate.
not to do it.
We're not
So-
compliant.
Yeah, but it's not just, we didn't go because of COVID. We didn't choose to participate in the way that it was held this year.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think we decided at the time that we thought there would be better uses of time actively helping with the other issues we were facing. I just wanted to say, there's like some money here for surveys. And we as a board, we really don't exercise this authority. So it's something we should consider for next year.
I agree.
Just a good thought. I mean, we don't go out and survey the community much. I think the last time I remember doing it was the DAC survey. And so I think it's probably something we should think about continually doing. I mean, just like I get a survey every year from the city of Aspen. It's good to know what our customers are thinking, parents and students.
All right. Any other final comments? Otherwise, we'll move on to 6.2 June 1 agenda items, which are growing exponentially.
Seems like everything.
So just to something dovetail with what we just discussed, the policies we have not yet discussed, we didn't discuss last year, and we haven't discussed this year yet, are the Rs, or now goals, 1, 2, 3, 4. We haven't discussed OEs 2, 5, 7, 8, and 13. And we haven't discussed BSRs 1 through 5. My proposal would be that many of those could go in the consent agenda. I would say all the OEs except OE4, I think I would put in the consent agenda. I think we could put R3 and R4, life skills and citizenship. Unless someone wants to pull it out, we could consider putting those in the consent agenda. We could consider putting the BSR 1 through 5s in the consent agenda, but the president has to write BSR 5E, the superintendent evaluation. And if nobody objects to that, then we'll discuss that at the agenda planning meeting. If anybody objects to that, we will pull them out. Or you all can think about it and let me know.
Yeah, I'd have to review that.
Okay.
I'll think about it, but my bias on R3 and R4 would be, heavy bias would be towards having the report organized and then presented, even in summary fashion. I think those are pretty important.
I agree.
Just to chunk them onto the consent without any light of day. Just discussion
Okay.
would be, I think, less than ideal.
I also, and I think we've said this before, but if it's something that relates to our priorities, we usually try to have a discussion and not just put it on consent. So OE8, I think, would be one that is important and it deserves some sort of report and some sort of just check.
So we'll definitely pull out OE4 and OE8. And unless, when you all take a look at them, if you want to pull any others, we can pull them. But in the meantime, we'll suggest putting the rest in the consent agenda.
Got it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, so I think David promised the community a update on HighFlex in the June. Was that planned for June 1st or for June 11th?
June 1st.
Can
Okay.
On the policies, I wanted to find out about VSR 1 through 5. Do you all, you're okay with consent?
What you suggested,
Okay.
right? There'd be a monitoring board, we could unpack it. They could, yeah.
Okay. Okay, go ahead,
Okay,
Katie.
so back to the HiFlex. I think what we probably need to see before the summer for sure is what some more examples of what that's going to look like, and also the bell schedule for the middle school and the high school, so that all of these community partners that are trying to figure out how to offer services in the fall aren't waiting till we reconvene in the fall to, figure out what their programming is going to look like. Because I think that bell schedule is going to be pretty important in terms of when kids can leave and how they create programming related to when our classes end. So it's just something I would ask. I don't know where you are on ready for that, but I think it's something that I've heard from, a couple coaches in different sports, in particular.
Fair enough.
Okay, so either date, it doesn't matter to me, but I think we need to do it in the spring.
Okay.
Okay.
We move on now to action items. GPE approve executive session for June 1st.
We just need to confirm a time, 3 o'clock possibly.
I put 3 on my calendar. Does that work for everybody? 3
Sorry,
o'clock?
it was before or not after? I couldn't remember which we ended up with on that.
3 o'clock, Katie.
3 o'clock on the 1st. Yep, that's fine.
Good.
I'll be remote.
And Jonathan? Are you there?
Yeah, I'll be remote as well, but I can attend.
Great.
So do you want to plan on all remote for that?
We could do all remote.
Yes.
Sure.
For, is anyone going to be here for the actual June 1 board meeting in person, or sounds like?
I am.
Okay.
But I don't want to be the only one. It'll be awfully lonely.
I'll join you.
But if we think it's going to be more effective, that's fine too. So I think we will figure out at some point that there is a not optimal number of people to be in person, right?
But I get to trade books with people at that time, so I kind of like the opportunity. But you have a point. So should we vote on this, or do you want to vote on, do your trick and vote on both?
I would also like to come up with a date to do the candidate training.
Yeah, that's right.
Piece, and so just an info session for potential candidates. Either June 2nd or 3rd, or June 8th or 9th.
What is the last day of school?
June 9th, 8th and 9th.
Okay. So do you want to do it after school is out, but before everybody's left town?
I mean, I'd like to try to do it before everybody's left town, for sure. And
well, is this something that Eliza also needs to be a big participant in, given that she will be our election representative and deal with all the paperwork and all that stuff?
Have scheduling restrictions.
I'm fully ready to prepare content, so don't think you have to design a whole education piece, but
Probably I would say the week of the 7th. It'd be better as we're just kind of winding down a little bit more.
Okay.
But I think we also need to consider doing this closer to either recording it or doing another session when after the 4th of August, when it actually opens up.
Okay. That's good.
I agree. Yeah. People will be in people's mind closer to the deadline.
Correct.
Well, should we do a Zoom call that we can just record, and then we will have done that now, and then we can do something more after August 4th?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Okay, so I'm open. I mean, I don't know, maybe that June 10th, school is out, is that a hard time, or is that?
No, I think that's fine.
That's a good time.
Yeah, is that a good time?
That's a
Good time?
much better time,
Okay, good.
candidly.
All right. And for community members, should we do it after 5, like 5-ish, 5:30?
We can do 5:30. That's, I think, give everyone time.
Okay.
I'll work with Kiki to get that advertised.
Great, okay.
And I'll work on,
And I can help you out with that as well.
okay, because I have that link that you sent me, I haven't looked at it, but we can look through that.
Yeah.
Great. So should we vote on?
Yeah.
Let me just,
I'd make a motion to approve item 7.1, the GP80 annual agenda planning exhibit as amended this evening.
Second.
Great.
Real quick, roll call, Katie Frisch,
Aye.
Susan Roll,
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel,
Aye.
Dwayne Romero,
Aye.
and Susie Zimmett.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. IB, NYP, PYP application for candidacy. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Katie Frisch,
Aye.
Susan Roll,
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel,
Aye.
Dwayne Romero,
Aye.
and Susie Zimmett.
Aye.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
mojo. Very good mojo.
Consent and action agenda items. Do we have a motion to approve?
Per all of the stuff we said during our.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and can I confirm that the only one we're gonna add to that is GP3? Everything else we did say we're not compliance.
Said we're compliant, but for a handful, through the handful.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
I think GP3 were.
So we'll add GP3 to that consent action.
That's correct.
There you
That's
go.
correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. Should we do all consent action items together?
All one of them?
Personnel also.
I don't see.
But you know,
I don't see personnel anymore.
We still have personnel, we're gonna make
On
an
the
update.
computer. Got it. So all one, yes, all one. Yes. A motion together. Did we?
Second.
There you go.
Okay.
Susan and Katie,
Okay,
first, second.
and then roll call, Katie Frisch,
Aye.
Susan Roll,
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel,
Aye.
Dwayne Romero,
Aye.
and Susie Zimmett.
Aye. And then future agenda items. I don't talk to them a lot about these.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to discuss this. Now, we still don't have time for Delahunt, right? We're gonna just delay that for now.
Push it. Summer.
All right. Okay, Susan, roll debrief.
Nice job, everyone. We covered a lot of ground. We, I think, talked about some important things and had some good conversation. I give us a A for today.
Oh. Yay. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Katie Frisch,
Aye.
Susan Roll,
Aye.
Jonathan Nickel,
Aye.
Dwayne Romero,
Aye.
and Susie Zimmett.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
That was a lot of fun.